What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast. The podcast. Keep it in. Keep it in.
Keep the bit in.
Yeah, keep the bit in. The podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom, movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. And Court, this is the episode where we make our money, because the multiverse, you know?
Yeah, actually, they should pay us royalties for this.
We invented the multiverse,
We
if
did.
anything.
It was us.
Yeah, it was our idea.
There's a universe where we don't have a podcast.
It's a bad universe.
But it's not this one, so the show must go on.
Yeah. So we are obviously here to give our full thoughts and review and recap and general meandering thoughts about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the latest installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and boy, was it something.
Yeah. That was definitely a movie that we just saw. Twice.
Don't forget it.
Yeah, twice in a row.
Yeah, so if you heard us a few days ago, actually, we gave our kind of off-the-cuff, rapid response to just seeing the movie without doing any spoilers, which is always difficult to not spoil things, especially in a movie like this.
Right. Fandom movies are by far the toughest because you have references, Easter eggs, performances that come out of the blue. Just overall, just a very thin line that we need to walk on, but we did, and now that's over. That line is broken, and we are in spoiler territory.
Yep. But first, we do have some news, and unfortunately, we start with another sad note. So last week, obviously, we talked about Neil Adams, and this week, George Perez has passed away at the age of 67. Mm-hmm. Another renowned comic book artist lost to the world.
Right, and it was sad. I know he had been struggling with pancreatic cancer, and I remember that was I believe it was a couple of months ago he got diagnosed too, and so many people were in support of him, and it was so, like we talked about last week, it was just so heartwarming to see the community really rally behind him too. But if you don't know George Perez's body of work, I mean, the man had possibly the two biggest comic covers at the time in the 80s and the two biggest crossovers for both sides of the coin for DC and Marvel. He drew Infinity Gauntlet and he drew the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, those are the two titans that both universes worked to, and both brought to live action fruition as well, which is incredible. So, spent a lot of time on Teen Titans. I believe the Judas Contract was something that he drew with Marv Wolfman writing, and yeah, spent a lot of time with Wonder Woman, Superman. Just such an incredible artist, and from everything that I've read, an even more incredible person. So. George Perez, you will be missed.
Yeah, it always sucks, especially with artists, because all you can do is you go back and you look at just what kind of an impact that particular artist had during the course of their career when these things happen, and you realize like, oh, he did this and he did this, and you don't realize it really at the time. Like when you're picking these things up and making the correlation that this is all the same person doing this. But, after they've passed, looking at their body of work is even more impressive.
Right.
Looking at the totality of it.
Right.
Yeah. Again, as always, no easy way to transition, but we do have some Marvel news, a couple things. First of all, Natalie Portman broke the internet.
Both literally and figuratively broke the internet.
Yes, we got another look at her as Jane Foster and Chris Hemsworth as Thor in Love and Thunder, a still image that has just captured the minds of everybody who's seen it because of the shape that Natalie Portman's in.
She hit the weight room times 10. She is the weight room.
Good. I mean, it's really cool to see because I know things didn't necessarily end tremendously well between her and Marvel coming off of Thor the Dark World. Obviously, she wasn't in Thor Ragnarok. She was, I believe it was just archive footage for Avengers Endgame. So, that was the big news of, what was it, Comic-Con 2020?
I think it was 2019.
2019? Oh, yeah, because that was the last one when they announced Blade and all that stuff. And people were like, whoa, Natalie Portman's back. So, and it looks like she's well into this role and is excited to see what direction Taika Waititi takes the character, and that seems to be the through line for most of the existing Thor cast, is that everyone was kind of done with it until Taika Waititi took the helm for Ragnarok, and obviously that's one of the most universally praised Marvel movies, superhero movies in general, you know, of this run.
Right.
So
and it's crazy how far we've gotten, because just coming, and we'll talk about it when we talk about Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but there's this aura around. We talk about auras surrounding movies a lot. There's this aura surrounding this Thor movie, especially after the first trailer. It just started getting a lot of traction. So what Multiverse of Madness wasn't for some people, I'm talking narratively, not including the cameos or lack thereof, is something that we'll get into. I think this movie's going to hit a lot of the beats that people want out of a Marvel movie. And a lot of that's going to help with Natalie Portman as the Mighty Thor. I think that's a good addition, or re-addition, and kind of having her bounce back off of Chris Hemsworth, just more in the sense that she's now not just your, you know, damsel in distress. She is the Mighty Thor now. I think that's going to be an interesting perspective, and it's going to lend probably to a good bit of comedy, but also some good storytelling as well.
Agreed. Especially, you know, we don't know the direction that's going to take, but we are familiar with the arc that this version of Jane Foster goes through, and I'm curious to see if they are going to touch upon that whole cancer thing with her, because obviously the character's been off screen since Thor: The Dark World, so we don't know what she's been up to. It was not hinted at in WandaVision when Darcy was there. There's no reference to Jane Foster, so we don't know what version of Jane Foster this is, whether it's a different universe Jane Foster. That's always a possibility now.
I just think because of the hammer being remolded, essentially, I do think that is the main universe Jane Foster, and I do think they will stick with the comic arc and make her, you know, the tried and true Mighty Thor that takes over for him after he loses, you know, the ability to wield Mjolnir. So interesting to see where that's going to lead. But this movie, I just rewatched that trailer after, obviously, we watched Doctor Strange, and it hits me every time. That trailer's just got this energy behind it. It's just raw, fun energy, and it's just something about the fact that we haven't seen anything from Gore yet just really gets me excited, because it feels like they're just holding him for as long as possible, and it's not like he's just some big Easter egg villain. He's just, you know, this is his first debut in the universe, but I have a feeling they're either waiting. They either had the toy leak, and they're just kind of waiting and maybe touching some stuff up, or maybe they're really holding something out from us, and they really want this to be a big reveal for the first full trailer, because that should essentially be in a couple of weeks, I'm going to assume, because the movie's only
2 months away.
2 months away. I think exactly 2 months away. So interesting, real interesting. But July cannot come fast enough. I really can't wait for this movie. So we're getting Miss Marvel in a month, and then we're going to get Thor: Love and Thunder. Yeah, still one of the greatest names for a superhero movie I've heard. It's a great name. Yeah.
Speaking of Miss Marvel, another trailer was released, hyping up the show that's coming out in a little over a month. This show is becoming increasingly more divisive as time goes on, and honestly, it's not without merit. Obviously, we got a glimpse at the kind of power change alteration that was being made to the character for the MCU iteration, and Kevin Feige kind of doubled down on that this week by saying that, you know, her powers are developed through some type of incident or larger thing that has to do with the MCU kind of continuity. So obviously it's not going to be the Terrigen Mist. It's not going to be the usual Ms. Marvel origin story. And that has been a source of divisiveness among fans of the character, because anyone who knows anything about Ms. Marvel knows that the character's powers were specifically designed to not be flashy and clean and pretty. Like, the point of her having the powers that she has is because she's obviously growing up as a young adult and already kind of feels outcasted, you know, because of her background and the community in which she lives, but also because of her powers are kind of gross, and they're not like sleek, like, because the comp is like her and Mr. Fantastic kind of have similar powers, but he has kind of like a sleeker kind of look to him with his powers, because he can, you know, he keeps kind of the same physicality, whereas like her, she gets the big, like, oversized fists, and you know, it's not pretty. So I totally get it. You know, you just kind of have to, I guess, take Marvel at faith in terms of what they've been able to pull off so far, and hopefully it's not as, big an issue as it is right now.
Right. And before we were very, who cares? We were very like, let's just see what happens. But now, with that knowledge of it kind of not betraying what the character, I think that's too bold of a statement to make, but it is a little bit of, not a little bit, it's a major departure from what you get from the source material, and just how special that piece of source material was, especially to the character too. It is going to really divide the community. So the show still looks interesting. I'm still interested. Wasn't a knock your socks off trailer, but it definitely did get me a little bit more hyped for what we're going to get out of this, and just another corner of the MCU we get to explore, and especially before the Marvels as well, because this show, just like WandaVision, was a stepping stone to get to that as well.
Yep.
So I think that's going to get, I think all we got to focus on is performance, see how she does, see how she's going to stack up against Brie Larson, and just hope for the best. I just want to see it first. I got to see another trailer or maybe just see the show. And I think I implore more people to do that. Just wait for the show, see what happens. And if the powers are really that much of a departure, then the fans don't have any problem letting people know what's wrong. So I don't think. Yeah, we'll see how it works in universe.
And then the last bit of Marvel news is Guardians 3 has wrapped, and Jennifer Holland has been added to the cast.
Yeah.
Kind of unofficially.
Maybe James Gunn and Jennifer Holland should play Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm.
Yeah, not much. It was just worth noting.
Right. Not surprised that she's in this movie now.
Yeah, and especially coming off of Peacemaker.
Oh, yeah.
Her star is rapidly ascending.
Right. And Myrn from Peacemaker also being the main villain of this is really going to get interesting. That's probably going to be even bigger just for the course of the MCU. Myrn being the High Evolutionary. That's going to get real fun. I really can't wait. This Guardians movie, because we've already talked about how much we love Guardians. Like I said, I don't know if you have the same as me. It's my favorite Marvel movie that's ever been made. It's just point blank one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen. It's just got this insane amount of heart and just this real command of, these big cosmic stories just having just a very simple, core message of friendship and family. That's really just understandable and refreshing. So I can't wait to see how they wrap that up for this trilogy, because he said most of them are not going to come back after this. So yeah, we're almost there. So we're wrapped filming, and I believe this movie comes out next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Next, we got a new Doctor Who.
We do.
Has entered the fray. Ncuti Gatwa from Sex Education fame is the latest Doctor of Doctor Who, and cool.
I got two things.
Sure.
Don't watch Doctor Who.
Same.
I've seen clips from Doctor Who and just references galore from all the fandom stuff that we watch, but he was just absolutely amazing in Sex Education. Just a borderline revelation. He just kept that show alive for so many of the scenes, especially alongside Asa Butterfield, because they play best friends in that show. It's just a really refreshing pick as well. And it lends credence, the whole thing, it's the James Bond thing that I always talk about. It's not the person that plays James Bond. These comic characters are supposedly, you need to be tied to, what the source material is. It's like a moniker you have. It's not the person it is.
Yeah, and quite literally, Doctor Who is that, of what little I do know about it, is that it's a reincarnation kind of deal. And that it's the Doctor is a mantle that's passed kind of onto you.
Right.
So, cool. I'm all for it. Like I said, Doctor Who is not my bag, but this got a lot of people excited. Mm-hmm. So good. Some Star Wars news. So Ahsoka has started filming.
Yes.
We still don't know a ton about it other than the limited cast, and cool. I'm glad. This is another show that I'm very excited for.
Oh my gosh,
from the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson was tremendous, obviously, in the second season of The Mandalorian, and then we got a little bit more of her in this The Mandalorian episode of the Book of Boba Fett. It was cool did you see the behind the scenes with Mark Hamill?
Right. Yeah, I did see that.
That was very cool. And then we got another Obi-Wan trailer.
Yeah, we did.
Ahead of its release in 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Little under 3 weeks.
We're almost there.
Yep, before the latest. This is a big one for Star Wars. We've talked ad nauseum about how Star Wars kind of needs a win, especially recently, and this is the show with the most potential to do that.
Oh my god, yeah.
So we get a little bit more Ewan McGregor, kind of where he's at in his Obi-Wan life.
Uncle Owen, just with the, I don't know why he needed to say that to him. What did he say? He said,
because Obi-Wan's saying that Luke needs to be trained when he gets older, and when he comes of age, and Uncle Owen goes, like he trained his father. Yikes.
Yeah, didn't. Good
point though.
Great point, Uncle Owen. Uncle Owen's just a hater.
Yeah.
He's just mad he's not Force sensitive. I think that's what this comes down to.
So it looks like there's going to be a lot of Obi-Wan struggling to not be a Jedi, basically.
And I think more importantly, because it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more sad than that, just not to be around his brother's son, just essentially his nephew, just not to be around him is probably killing him on the inside, because he knows what he's not, and it's not what he's capable of. It's just because he just wants to protect this, like, this not blood, but this relative of his. Just that's the only thing he wants to do.
Yep. So we get some action scenes of him shooting a gun, him doing a little
so primitive,
him doing a little hand-to-hand action. No lightsaber action.
No lightsaber action. I think they're holding out.
Yeah, because at the end of the trailer we do get the suit up scene of Vader. So they're presumably going to cross paths. We obviously know Hayden Christensen is back as Anakin Skywalker, a.k.a. Darth Vader. So presumably they're going to cross paths at some point. Yeah.
For a climax, it's got to be for a climactic 6th episode showdown. So part 2 of 3, I'm going to call it, because we already got part 1 in Revenge of the Sith. We got part 3 in A New Hope. So this one's definitely going to be the how like the trope that the second one's always the best. Like this, I don't know. This one has potential. I don't know. That Revenge of the Sith fight is just always.
I'm expecting kind of it's funny that this is kind of in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, because I'm expecting if they do face each other, that the fight is basically going to be a marriage of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Yeah,
it's going to have a little bit quicker of a pace than the New Hope fight, but not the chaotic anarchy that was the Revenge of the Sith fight.
I think it's going to be a little bit more refined and a little bit more of like the whole student becomes the master thing. Like that was like, had the climax in A New Hope. I think this is going to be like the rise to it. Like he's going to realize just how quickly Anakin became how strong that he was. So this is going to be a fun fight. And it's also going to be the fact that he had not been using the Force for a little bit to try to hide, Darth Vader's going to have an advantage over him too. He's going to have a bit of an upper hand on that too, but he's still not full-fledged Vader at this point, so he still has got stuff to learn, and then there's stuff that Obi-Wan probably hadn't even taught him yet, so...
Yeah, I'm excited.
Looking forward to it.
And then the last bit of Star Wars news is the Multiverse of Madness scribe, Michael Waldron, is penning the Kevin Feige Star Wars film. Take that for what you make of it.
You might get some more context after this review.
Yeah, so he's definitely driving the... Kevin Feige's looking to take over the Star Wars universe now, like he has the Marvel universe. So we'll see what happens. We, again, don't know a ton about what this project is. We know he wants Chloe Zhao to direct it.
I believe so, yeah. And I think we called that after she was announced to be in Eternals. I think we called that because that was around the same time that that Kevin Feige said he's going to lead a Star Wars property. And I just said it was before we had seen anything from the Eternals. I had a feeling because her landscaping's absolutely incredible, and depending on who our cinematographer is going to be, then it's going to really be some beautiful worlds recreate. I think she's best used when it's a little bit more practical, because we saw with Eternals they were using a lot of practical sets and they were on location. I think they said that was the most they'd been on location for any Marvel movie too. So I want a little bit more of that touch. I do want a little bit more of the nomad land approach and the songs my brothers taught me over Eternals in terms of storytelling. But obviously you probably want to go a little closer to Eternals because it is a fandom movie. So
yep. And then the last thing I got is a couple of trailers. So House of Dragon got another trailer. Hyping up the Game of Thrones prequel series that's coming out in 3 months' time.
Our boy Matt Smith is back.
Matt Smith is back. He is in this. And yeah, again, Game of Thrones, you can't quite quantify the stranglehold that Game of Thrones had on the internet community for, I would say, probably season 3 on. Season 1 and 2 was more of a niche kind of fantasy thing.
Felt like almost indie in the way that they were approaching, especially season 1.
Yeah.
So
and then from season 3 on up until the final season, that just absolutely captivated the world up until it finished. The Co-showrunner is Miguel Sapochnik, who has directed some of the most highly critically acclaimed Game of Thrones episodes. So, people are worried that this is going to have the stink of the final season. The two showrunners from Game of Thrones are not at all involved with this project. It is, once again, being deviated from derived from a George R. R. Martin book, Fire and Blood. So they're going back to basing things off source material, not taking a ton of creative liberties. So I'm anticipating a bit closer to Game of Thrones 3 through 6 than I am Game of Thrones 7 and 8 for this show. And then we talked about it a little in our bonus Doctor Strange review recap. The Avatar 2 trailer has officially hit the internet. So I figured we'd talk a little bit more about that.
Just chills every time I see there's something about this trailer. I just found out today that people hate Avatar.
Yeah, that's been a thing for a few years.
Yeah.
Ever since the sequels became kind of almost like a running gag, because by this time when the sequels were first announced, we were supposed to be 4 movies in by 2022, and then kept getting pushed back, and then people were like, "This is never happening. It's never coming out." But now it's here, and
looks amazing. I'll say it. I don't really care about any other person's opinion. It just looks amazing. It's just, again, like I talked about last in the non-spoiler review, it's just this universe that's created around it, but it's the core of what's inside the universe. It's like the beauty of the tribe that they're in, and just kind of the overall lesson and theme that you get from this. It makes all the sense in the world, and it's just, in 2009 when this movie came out, we talk about how these Marvel movies were just hits after hit. This was the hit. This was the one that came out and just, took over.
Dominated everything.
Dominated absolutely everything.
Could not be overtaken by Star Wars. Could not be overtaken by Marvel up until Endgame.
And they needed a what did they need? They needed that little
cash grabby re-release with bonus footage.
Now,
air quotes.
Did Rob and I go to see that?
Of course.
Yeah, we did. Are we ashamed of it?
No.
Did the third act everybody come back at the same theater reaction? It did. And everybody knew what was happening, and it still did.
Yeah. So that's what you're talking about when you're talking about Avatar. It introduced and subsequently revolutionized 3D cinema.
Yeah.
And some might say it also killed 3D cinema at the same time.
Right. So a big part of this whole movie getting delayed, I mean the pandemic obviously, but a big piece was James Cameron knew this is where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to the water on Pandora. He wanted to go into the oceans, but they didn't have the technology to get motion capture underwater. They just didn't have it whenever this movie was trying to be made. But now we do. And we're here. So sometimes things take a little bit of time. It's 13 years, but it's not like it's a human 13 years. This movie is set in the future, so it's fine that it took a little bit of time.
It's set in the future, set on another planet.
Yeah, it's
set
fine.
in another solar system.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to have any... You're not going to feel it when you're watching it in theaters.
Right.
And, I don't think this is necessarily going to resuscitate the 3D cinema, but... It'll be nice for a one-off.
Yeah, I think this would be cool. Just we're all on this, like I always say, we're on this big nostalgia trip. Might as well get us back into the.
Give me this movie in 3D in IMAX, and just let me loose.
Did you pick anything up from this trailer? I got one thing.
What do you got?
Whatever the general guy, whatever is.
I saw that. Yeah.
He's
Mr.
back.
Don't Breathe.
Yeah, Mr. Don't Breathe.
The guy that everybody wanted to be Cable for a bit.
Right. So he is back in this movie because people were a little confused because it kind of looked like Sully, and then they were like, but it's not him because why is he wearing his hair's different? He's wearing human clothes. They thought it was maybe a different time. It's the general. He's back. He took one of their bodies, and he's wreaking havoc.
Yeah. Interesting, because I know a lot of people don't remember a ton from the first Avatar movie, but he was speared in the chest.
He was speared in the chest. So I wonder if there was anybody that found his body before his consciousness was gone, snuck him into a place where they can transfer the consciousness and got him a second life. So that's going to be a good point for a good antagonistic force to start this movie. My only fear is that it might be a bit repetitive just to have the same villain as the last movie. But I think with something like this, it's going to be a little deeper than that.
I think so too.
His perspective's got to change, right? Because now he's in one of their bodies. His perspective might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't think they're going to go back to the well of the same villains. I mean, if anything, if James Cameron have showed us anything, it's usually a game of one-upsmanship with the villains.
Right. And I think what's going to be interesting too is I really want a little bit of an environmental type of villain, like a non-person villain or a non-being villain would be just the world of Pandora itself being its own villain would be kind of interesting as well. Like something that you can't, but obviously that's probably not going to be the case, but it definitely is going to have, points of conflict in the story too. So that's going to be really interesting to see. I can't wait to see this movie. Just Avatar as a whole, I just regained such a new love after seeing this trailer in the theater and going back through some of the clips of the original movie. Just my love has been re-upped. It was a big part of my childhood, this movie, so I'm really glad to see that we're back. Yeah,
and with that being said, let's jump right into Doctor Strange. As you know, I'm a numbers guy.
You're the numbers guy, and I talk about cameras.
I'm the numbers guy, and numbers I do have. So this movie, unsurprisingly, just crushing the box office.
Yeah, both times, because we literally saw it. We saw it in a non-IMAX theater, and then we saw it in the IMAX theater. Both were full.
Yep.
Both were full, and this was the day before.
Yeah, so
we were walking in the theater, and it felt like an event, and like it was funny. I had to take a step back, and I'm like, wow, like these Marvel movies are really like full out events when they happen. Like it's like people go out of their way to make sure this is a planned event with their friends. I mean, for the first show, we set it up with some of my friends. Like we had like 20 people with us. Like these are like full out like experiences that people go to.
Yep.
I know Martin Scorsese's probably somewhere punching air.
Yeah. Nobody's packing theaters to see The Irishman.
Because it was on Netflix. Relax, man.
But $185 million domestically over the weekend from Thursday, which is crazy. It is second only behind, obviously, Spider-Man No Way Home. It has racked in an additional $265 million worldwide, not including China.
Right.
It will not release in China. So. And Russia, obviously, for reasons. Because Russia can't mind their business. But, yeah, so, wow. $450 million, almost $500 million
That's insane.
In just 4 days. Wow. Obviously, with the handicapping of not releasing in China and Russia, it might not make $1 billion.
Yeah.
But
this is like $1 billion in spirit type of movie.
Yeah, because... holy smokes. It is the fourth highest grossing opening weekend for any MCU film behind Spider-Man No Way Home and the duo of Infinity War and Endgame. And that's it. It is obviously leaps and bounds in terms of disparity between first and second film in a franchise. Far and away exceeds the gate for the first Doctor Strange movie, which was around 90 million, I think, for Doctor Strange 1 in the same time frame. So this nearly quadrupled Doctor Strange 1, which is not surprising because people, I think, had certain expectations for this movie.
I agree.
Which brings me to the aggregation. Not really divisive among critics and audience. It floats within 12 to 15 percentage points even. Critically, 75% aggregation on Rotten Tomatoes among critics and 87% among audience members. So audiences are liking it. Critics are lukewarm about it. I can tell you that the criticisms as far as critically is a little, pardon the pun, but it's a little strange to me, particularly as it pertains to the tone of the film and the violence of the film.
Right.
I think is causing a lot of critics some unease.
Yeah. we're gonna go into the section of this podcast where I preach for a bit, but I'm gonna save that for a little bit because I do think I know why it's like subconsciously why I think people aren't as warm to a movie, because I think if the tone was a little bit different, that people would have eaten this movie alive, and it would have just been like one of the biggest Marvel movies that has ever been released. In layman's terms, before I jump into my big spiel, I do think it's because we didn't get the same warm, fuzzy feeling that we normally get from these movies. And I know the comp is like, well, Infinity War didn't have a good ending, but listen, we all knew they were coming back. And it was like the culmination of 22 films. Like this one, it's like, there's some really dark imagery in this movie, and I don't think that's something that people they're just not used to it. They're just not.
And even with Infinity War, like, sure, it had a pretty horrifying beginning with obviously the destruction of what's left of the Asgardian people and the death of Loki and Heimdall, and then the ending. But in the middle, it's kind of jokey for much of it.
It's fun. It's like it's a cool adventure movie from a lot of different perspectives, which is an interesting aspect of the film as well. But this one it's really like a horror chase, like a classic slasher horror, like you said last week, like a slasher chase for most of the movie, and they don't shy away from it. They really don't, and it's something that's completely different. And then, are we in spoilers yet?
I don't know. What else do we have to say about it that we didn't really talk about last week?
No, nothing much. I mean, we can just go back.
Have you had any changing opinions from last week?
No, it's funny. I keep fluctuating. I keep going back and forth. I keep going between this is some really good, it's some pretty solid movie making from Sam Raimi. That's something I'm really high on. I'm usually not like the plot hole guy. I'm usually the person that kind of defends plot holes. There is some glaring ones in this movie, and I think it kind of did hurt the story overall. So that's something I'm not high on as much as I usually am. And no, overall the performances were probably some of the best I'd seen out of any MCU movie. It's just narratively in MCU world building, it's cool, but at what cost was it cool? Because now it gets a little interesting, because the storyline that they're trying to build up with, I think, and much more people think, it's not something that comes lightly and without a lot of explanation, because the comic had explanation after explanation after explanation. Like, it was just one continuous strand of, like, not exposition, but, like, keeping people, you know, at least a little bit informed, because it is, like, this was, like, the collapse of the multiverse. So I think this is where this is starting. Like, the Doctor Strange was, like, just as, like, what did they say, that Loki was the first piece, or of the multiversal kind of trilogy, they call it? Like, this is probably the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I think as I've reflected on it, I think I like it a bit better even than I did on Friday. And I think part of that has to do with, like, me getting defensive about the weird criticisms.
Right. That's something I can get on board with.
Or I'm like, are we really doing this?
Yeah, there's just, like, there's some, like, little ones. I think, we're not in spoilers yet. I think we can't talk about any of this without talking spoilers, so I think it's time.
Yeah, we might as well break the barrier down. So from here on out, you've been warned. If you have not seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, you can check out now, come back after you've seen the movie.
And listen to our non-spoiler review.
Yeah, do that too. We had like a good half hour on that. And like 10 minutes on Moon Knight.
So, boom, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Doctor Strange, the Illuminati will see you now.
Yeah, let's start there, because this is the source of a lot of
pretty much most of the
conversation. So we got the Illuminati after months of speculation. Who's in the group? Who's in the box? What's in the box?
I think we'll start from the least audience reaction to the most. So
okay.
So we have Baron Carl Mordo. Carl. Chiwetel Ejiofor is back playing not that significant of a role. So let's talk about that real quick, because I think there's supposed to be an implication. So remember how we have this whole thing that Doctor Strange does all of his best stuff off screen?
And it happened again.
They do the same thing in Star Wars in between episodes 2 and 3. Well, I guess the Clone Wars is supposed to be the comp for that, but they talk about all that stuff in Revenge of the Sith, of stuff that just we never see. But yeah, he's back. So I guess the implication for the main universe, not the main universe, but the 616. So now, nerds, it's been dubbed 616. You guys can relax. So the main MCU that we
don't worry, people are still mad about it.
Yeah, they are, because who cares? Who knows? But I guess the implication is that the main universe, Baron Mordo, already confronted Strange and was killed, is dead.
I think we essentially got the Scott Derrickson Doctor Strange 2 summed up for us
in literally 10 seconds.
Because presumably that's what he probably would have wanted to do before this multiverse thing kicked off.
I think this movie, I don't even think this movie was a multiverse movie before whatever their plan was, because presumably Scott Derrickson probably had to have been told about Spider-Man No Way Home and that Benedict was going to be in that, so now he had to kind of change his movie. And then I'll bet any amount of money that he said, no, I was just trying to do a more, he was like, I'm trying to do a horror movie, like I'm trying to do a tried and true horror. Yeah, because Scott Derrickson's horror Doctor Strange probably would have been, this movie had some good scares, like the movie he made probably would have been way scarier than this.
And next to Dormammu, Doctor Strange's biggest adversary is Mordo.
Yeah, right.
And to not see that, we got a little bit of it, obviously, in this, so a little fisticuffs exchanged. Yeah. But
not only does Doctor Strange learn magic, he's learned how to use his hands off screen too. His hands work.
Yeah, so obviously Mordo, different universe Mordo, under the illusion that he is like the Sorcerer Supreme, only because the Doctor Strange of that universe was killed. He was executed.
Hold on, save that for a second. We're getting there.
All right, next.
So Captain Carter's there.
You think Captain Carter got less of a reaction than Maria Rambeau?
Oh, sorry.
See, you forgot her. She was even in it.
Maria Rambeau was in this, and she's Captain Marvel. So it gets simpler to getting more complicated. So this is very simple. So obviously, Mordo is just that universe's Mordo. That's the Sorcerer Supreme because Strange is gone. Then you have Maria Rambeau, which is just
Lashana Lynch is back.
Right, Lashana Lynch is back. What was her designation in the Bond movie?
007?
Oh, right. She was.
Was that like a trick question?
Yeah, move over, Daniel Craig. You lost your spot.
She was great in that Bond movie.
Yeah, she was great in that movie. But yeah, so she's back. So obviously the whole thing is, I think it was said Carol took a shortcut to get to the base on time. So I guess in this universe that she made it there first. She was the one that flew the plane, and she's the one that got imbued with.
She's Captain Marvel.
She's Captain Marvel.
Silver suit,
cool.
Silver suit, got the Captain Marvel kind of helmet. No mohawk.
Cool.
It's probably what undid her in the end.
Yeah.
No mohawk.
The mohawk would have saved her.
Yes.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. We can't get there yet.
Captain Carter's
there.
Haley Atwell.
That was they got a solid gasp in the theater, like ooh,
yeah, fun,
cool.
Obviously not the what if version of Captain Carter, just a different universe. Captain Carter,
right. The first Avenger.
Yes.
Which I'm also a bit confused. So I guess in this universe there's Avengers and then there's the Illuminati on top of that.
Yeah. That's how I took it, because everyone in this crew kind of represents a different crew.
Right.
Except for Captain Marvel, who doesn't really...
Unless Captain Marvel's like supposed to be like
the space representative?
Right. Like pre-scroll, it doesn't matter. If you're from space, you gotta go through Captain Marvel.
You're in the crew.
You're in.
We don't got time for Guardians of the Galaxy in this crew.
Captain Carter, just like Captain America in the comics, is the only reason he was ever there is just because like he's like the overwhelmingly good guy. And I just love...
She doesn't give that vibe to me.
No, she doesn't.
She gives the vibe that she's kind of on board with everybody else.
I think it's more of a respect thing. Like, because she is the first Avenger. She does need to be there.
And she can throw hands.
She can throw... well...
she did better than a lot of the other guys.
She did. So, then it starts to get a little bit... It starts to ramp up a little bit. The goat Blackagar Boltagon, Black Bolt, was just sitting there, full comic accurate suit, and everybody's like, this one was a half and half, because the nerds, including us, were like, oh, huh?
And then I spent a good 5 minutes going, is that the guy from Inhumans?
And it was the guy from Inhumans. All right, I got an idea, and it's a very simple idea. In the main Marvel universe, just act like that Inhuman show never happened, and then just do the movie.
Yeah.
Recast everybody except for Black Bolt, because he's cool. He didn't speak, and he's actually good. He's good in that. He's good in that freaking. What was that show? What's the show? The Star Trek show, Discovery.
Yeah.
He's good in that. He is good in that. I have watched a couple episodes of that. He's good.
Yep.
Recast everybody else though.
Yeah, for real.
Recast and do a movie.
Yeah.
Do the movie.
So yeah, Black Bolt. That was a surprise.
Yeah, in the suit and like with the tuning fork on his head. It's like with the wings, like they went for it, and it worked. And like I said last week, we're at that point in the MCU. It doesn't matter. It worked.
Yeah,
it worked.
Totally worked. So
let's go to the ones that were in the trailer, and then we'll get to the big one.
Yeah. So Professor X, Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart, rolls in his X-Men '90s floaty wheelchair thing. Got the X-Men '90s theme song plays behind him.
That definitely got a reaction. People were happy about that. He said the line from
Days of Future Past.
Yeah, such a good line. Such an underrated comic book movie too.
It's very good.
Yeah, it is.
I like Days of Future Past.
Just because somebody stumbles and they fall does not mean they have lost their way.
Always wise. Yeah. Professor X always the one who tries to see the best in people, but not always.
Yeah. Sometimes that gets you hurt. Sometimes that gets you killed.
In Professor X's case, quite often it gets him killed.
Yeah.
He's like the Kenny of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, he is. He keeps getting killed. He can't stay alive.
Spoiler alert. We already said that, but
yeah,
no different for Professor X here. But then, boy, wow, we really bullied Marvel into doing what we wanted. We got them. They did the thing.
So you remember way back when Jim Halpert himself, John Krasinski, was like fan cast as Professor X, as Mr. Fantastic?
He was.
Yeah, get John Krasinski as Professor X in the end. That'd be fun.
And get Patrick Stewart as Reed Richards.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, he's Mr. Fantastic in this movie. Yeah. They go down the panel, and then it gets to the last point, and like he just teleports in, as Reed Richards does, because he's a quote-unquote genius. And we'll talk about that.
Not just a genius, he's the smartest man alive.
The smartest man alive, with an asterisk next to it. That's what it should be.
We're gonna need a new smartest man alive after this movie.
Real quick.
So this is Earth Universe
838.
Sure. So in this universe, Thanos, as Thanos does, running amok.
So I find that consistent amongst most of these universes, and I guess we're going to have to talk about the dimension theory that I had before we hopped on, the dimension versus the timeline thing, because every universe, or every, wherever America can hop to, those feel like different universes. Like, that feels more in line with Loki, because you made the point, why does Toby and Andrew not look like Tom? And I think it's more of a dimension type of thing.
But it's never explained.
And that's one of the biggest issues with this movie. That it's just never explained.
So yeah, Thanos was running amok, doing what Thanos does.
Right, like I said, what I meant to say was, it seems like it's true in so many universes that Thanos, he's like a constant almost in every universe.
Constant pain in the ass.
Yeah. So just leave us be, Thanos.
But in this universe, there wasn't a plan to fight him?
Well, what I took from it is more of the heroes didn't know what to do, but the Illuminati were the Illuminati does what the Illuminati does best. We're not going to have Ant-Man figure stuff out. It's got to be the top brass to figure this one out.
Yeah, we're going to leave it to Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Sure. I think
the smartest man alive.
Did he try to talk to Thanos first?
He probably did.
Thanos, I also have children.
Yeah. We can have a chat if you want.
Get out of here, Reed Richards.
Can I be honest? The only person that made sense in that whole universe was Doctor Strange. He's the only person that actually made sense. I don't care about what the Darkhold does to you. Go off, King. Do what you gotta do.
So yeah, before Mordo, there was the 838 Doctor Strange who was like, look, we gotta stop Thanos basically by any means necessary. So I'm gonna read the Darkhold, and what's your role in the Darkhold? Don't open it?
Yeah, don't open it. Why? I said this. Why are we opening this? It's called the Darkhold. Didn't help in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Didn't help in WandaVision. It just doesn't do any good. There's just nothing good of this. You just don't understand.
So he made a plan with the Darkhold, and then that plan was to find the other book.
But this is where it starts to get a little loose with the rules, because apparently whatever he did with the Darkhold started to destabilize the universe. So Black Bolt ended up killing him, but the world doesn't believe that. The world thinks that he just gave his life defeating Thanos, but it was more a case of if they
because he was searching for answers within the multiverse,
right?
And he came across this other universe, and then that converged his universe with the other universe and wiped out like a pool ball. Their universe wiped out the other universe.
Should I talk some comics real quick?
Sure.
Should I talk some comics? So boom. You've heard me talk about it on here. When you asked me the inevitable question at the end, have I done anything? I've dove back into possibly what I consider one of the greatest comic runs of all time. Jonathan Hickman's run on the Avengers and New Avengers, which culminated into Secret Wars, the undoing of the Marvel Universe to kind of converge everything back into one universe. That was the goal of it, but the selling point was that all the universes started collapsing. It's a gritty story, and it's literally like, I think this is where the MCU is going, but basically an incursion happens when two universes collide with one another, and there's a grace period, so they start to push on each other, and then there's an 8-hour period. Either one universe needs to be destroyed, or both universes get destroyed. So we'll see. The MCU is definitely adopting that because Reed Richards said it, and Reed Richards is a central figure. If you really want to get into it...
And he's a genius.
He's a quote-unquote genius. If you really want to get into it, the whole Hickman Avengers arc, if you really want to date it, you can push it back to Hickman's run on the Fantastic Four, because essentially what this story ends up being is... It's really Reed Richards versus Doctor Doom is essentially like the end of this.
Isn't it always?
It always is. It always is. So yeah, Reed, not so smart.
Yeah, so they end up executing their universe's Doctor Strange.
Before he becomes, A, too powerful, and B, says, let's keep going to different universes to solve our own problem. Which is an oxymoron for Reed, because that's literally what he does in the comics. He literally just has a council of Reed Richards that he goes to answer questions.
Yeah, that wouldn't have got anything done in this case.
Yeah, the incursion thing's a little different in the MCU, I guess, because the incursion just happens when somebody's in a universe for too long and makes it different. Like, the person starts to divulge the path. But in the comics, it's much more of like a, somebody did this type of, it's like, essentially it turns into a whodunit. Somebody started the collapse of the multiverse.
Yeah, so Doctor Strange, regular Doctor Strange, original recipe Doctor Strange, is there, and he's raising the alarm bells.
Right.
Because, again...
we jumped the gun a lot, because this whole...
Well, yeah, because we're gonna backtrack a bit. We're gonna backtrack a bit to get back to this moment.
Right.
We're gonna do the old TV show thing, where it's like, it shows you like a sequence out of context, and then it goes 72 hours earlier after the commercial break. Yeah. So that's where we're going. We're going back.
That's literally like how every episode of How I Met Your Mother works.
We're going back probably like an hour in time. Because guess what? When you thought there was a bigger bad from Wanda, nope.
It's Wanda.
Wanda's the bigger bad.
Surprise. Wanda Maximoff. More importantly, the Scarlet Witch is the villain of this movie. And
amazing.
Yeah. That's got a lot of people well, again,
I freaking loved it.
It just goes to the whole fact that people just want these just gigantic Easter eggs and like these crazy comic characters to come out of left field. No, they're not just going to throw Chthon at you. No.
They could have.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
They just let Elizabeth Olsen work.
And people were like, it's inconsistent with her... Is it?
Is it, though?
Did you not see the end of WandaVision?
Where
she did...
Right.
What did she do?
She was reading that she opened the Darkhold. Keep it closed. There's just no reason to have that thing open.
So, yeah.
God.
Scarlet Witch is the villain of this movie.
Right. So, fast forwarding back to what we were talking about, they're at the Illuminati headquarters. Everything's going good. So, essentially in this universe, too...
So, Wanda's... Just going back real quick. Wanda's motivation, right, is she wants to be reunited with her children.
Simple.
We didn't know. We knew that was her motivation. So again, don't get where this inconsistency talk happens, because we know from the end of WandaVision that that's what she wanted, was to be reunited with her children. We just didn't know how she was going to go about it. Now we know. So she catches wind of America Chavez, who is a one-of-one, truly a unique individual in the multiverse, and she can universe hop with her powers. She doesn't know how she can do it. So Wanda has been sending monsters, demons after America so that she can absorb her powers, killing her in the process, but Wanda doesn't care.
A true villain at this
point. True villain.
Because she, from the jump, so essentially what happens is there's a monster that attacks New York. So what they think is there's just beings, there's a bigger bad that's sending these interdimensional beings after America just to try to get her power.
And they do correctly peg that it does have something to do with witchcraft.
Because Wong says, Steven says there's ruins on it, and Wong says, so it's witchcraft. It's not wizard. It's not magic. It's witchcraft. And I said, who do you know anybody that knows about witchcraft? And then the WandaVision theme plays. Genius moment.
Great.
Genius moment.
And then he goes to see Wanda, and she's just growing apples.
Yeah, she's just having...
You're like, this is great. Look at Elizabeth Olsen.
She's going to come help them? Like, this is going to be a cool, fun movie.
Yeah, she's so pleasant. And then she's like, why don't you just bring America here?
Right.
And then Doctor Strange goes,
and then he just stops, and Wanda goes, I never said her name, did I? He said,
you never told me your name, did you?
And he's like, nope, and then boom.
And then the switch flips.
Yep.
The psycho switch flips.
Yep, and she's got the blackened fingers that Agatha had in WandaVision. She's I don't know where she was. I also don't know how Strange didn't realize that was happening, but the only thing that makes sense is two things. One, it's like the whole thing that she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, so she's essentially...
Because he literally grabs one of the branches and he goes, there's no magic.
Right.
But there was heaps of magic.
Yeah. No, but that's the part two is like, it's not magic, it's witchcraft. Like, this is...
Whatever.
It's different, yeah. It's different, but it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They fought with music in this movie.
But yeah, she's like, all right, look at me. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
She go. What did she say? The hex wasn't the hard part. It was the line.
It was the line.
So
yeah.
she's fully just off the reservation at this point.
So let's address this because you already started it, but let's finish it. Listen, she's the villain because she was reading the Darkhold. It's not because the writers had a lack of understanding for WandaVision. She was reading the Book of the Damned. I don't think that's
for a while.
For a while, in her sleep, she was reading this thing. She was reading that in the nighttime. That's scary time.
It's nighttime reading.
It's nighttime reading.
Yeah, so she has been... I mean, there is elements of it that is her, and then there's elements of the Darkhold, and they marry together.
Right. Because, essentially, and you even got this tease in Age of Ultron. It's so funny. Looking back on it, because that was 2015 and we're in 2022 now, one of my friends that I saw Age of Ultron with, he said something, and then now it's so crazy that it clicked. Because he said... I don't think people even have like an inkling of understanding of how, like, she disintegrated those Ultron bots with a thought after Pietro died. Like, you don't understand what grief can do to a person, and it was the grief that the Darkhold held on to and kind of gnawed at the whole time to create the Scarlet Witch.
There was no grounding mechanism for her.
No, there isn't.
She didn't have her vision. Kids. She didn't have vision.
Well, that's what I think the big thing is there was no vision to bring her back to reality. An interesting choice, I think, and I thought to not have Paul Bettany in this movie. I thought for sure he was going to show up to some capacity in this movie, even if it was for like 2 minutes. I thought he was going to show up, but that's not what this story is about. The story is about she understands she lost her husband, but she can find her kids.
Yeah, she's like, all right, turn her over, or I'm gonna come get her. Basically,
yeah, Elizabeth Olsen delivered two of the coldest lines I've heard in the MCU. So the first line that really caught my attention is when she said, hand America, you better have America ready when I come to Kamar-Taj, or you're not going to get Wanda, you're going to get the Scarlet Witch. And I said, oh boy, they better give it to her because I don't want that smoke.
And they don't.
They don't. So let's finish up this Illuminati business, shall we?
Yeah, sure. So fast forward.
So that we can get back to the beginning of the movie.
So Strange and America get arrested in a different universe. Mordo tricks them. Surprise, surprise. Mordo's not that great a guy. They're in a prison cell, and Doctor Strange is like, man, you gotta let me out of here.
Right.
Because Wanda has engaged in a technique called dream walking.
Right, that's a big plot thread in this movie.
Which essentially means that a sorcerer or witch or wizard can use the Darkhold, use a spell within the Darkhold to jump their consciousness essentially into the body of a multiversal counterpart.
Right, and if you use it for too long, then it starts to destabilize the universe you're in and create an incursion.
And Doctor Strange is like, look, she's an issue. And the Illuminati's like, no, she's not.
Maria specifically says, we don't care about your little... You think we're scared of your little witch? Like, because...
We can handle your little witch and her dream walking, is what she says.
But somebody made a really good point. Like, in this universe, the Scarlet Witch that they probably know is probably still Wanda Maximoff. She's probably just, like just a telekinetic at this point. Just that's probably all she is. They probably only know her for no chaos magic, just literally just being able to just move things with her mind and fly sometimes. That's probably the only... And she's just a nice woman with 2 kids that's got some powers.
And Doctor Strange is like, no, you can't. No, you can't.
Yep.
And then Wanda shows up. She has overtaken the body of her multiversal counterpart. And
what a nice woman.
I mentioned last week there was a scene where a character looks directly into the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And it's Wanda when she assumes control of...
Straight. You want to talk about those horror elements? Possibly, just maybe even one of the better scenes in the MCU, regardless of genre. So, essentially, the scene where she goes to take over her body in true horror fashion, there's no like music or nothing. There's no background score.
There's clanging and banging of pots and bowls, and
there's wind.
There's wind inexplicably.
Inside the house, and she's just it's a tried and true possession. It's a horror possession scene, and she takes over her other body, and it's creepy. It's so creepy. She she looks at a picture of herself, and the picture looks back at her. Like the window opens,
a deadpan stare into the camera, and it's brilliant.
Oh my god!
So she rocks up at Illuminati HQ and just starts causing absolute anarchy.
Right. So the Illuminati said, so it's basically Reed, Black Bolt, Monica or Maria, and Captain Carver go say, you know what, we'll deal with this and we'll be back. And Mordo just watches him, and more importantly, Professor X, because he looked into his mind, says, I think we can trust this Strange. And Mordo's like, nah.
And Professor X basically goes, look, if things go wrong, and that's Professor X speak for things are about to go wrong.
And he says, like, quote unquote, like, in his mind, he's like, it's like, quote unquote, if you just so happen to be released from these chains and are able to escape, like,
get out of here.
Go find the Book of So we didn't even talk about the Book of Ashanti. So it's the MacGuffin of this movie. The Book of Ashanti is supposed to be the counter to the...
Well, it's like the fake MacGuffin.
It is the fake MacGuffin.
Because the real MacGuffin is America Chavez.
You want to get into... If you really want to get into it, the real MacGuffin is Doctor Strange himself. But the Book of Ashanti, like I said, is supposed to be a perfect counter. It's the light to the Darkhold's darkness. It's supposed to be the book that will grant whatever... Open it. Yeah, open it. Open that book. That's a good book. It's a great book. It's a book you should have on your shelf.
It's the book that we see in the beginning of the movie with Defender Strange and America Chavez. That's what they're after.
Right. So this book, if you open it, read it, it kind of will help you find anything that you need to, but it's unobtainable. That's the whole thing. But then Wong, earlier in the movie, says, Wong says, we do know where it is because Strange thinks it's like fake. Like original recipe, Strange thinks it's like
a myth.
But
fake
then
news.
Wong gives one of your favorite characters in this movie, Wong gives one of the best lines. He's just like, I get a book when you become Sorcerer Supreme, so that thing's very real. Just so you know.
I know all the secrets. Wong's the best.
He is the best. He's great in this movie. You see Zombie Strange, she's like, let's go.
And then he's like, I don't want to know.
Let's save the day, man.
Yeah.
I don't want no part of this.
So yeah, Professor X is like, look, things are probably going to go wrong.
But you're a good guy. You're a good Strange. And that's a big theme throughout the movie for Benedict Cumberbatch's arc. Like, it's two things. It's you're the good Strange. Like, you do have some, because in What If and all these other alternate versions, like, in this universe, they were more afraid Strange was telling them, like, you don't understand, like, this being that can literally tear apart universes if she wanted to, like, she's coming here, and they were like, we're more afraid of you, like, in what you're capable of.
Which is...
Right.
Okay.
And then there's something I just really liked, and it's like, it's a double-edged coin or a double-edged blade because I think a part of it gets a little shortened because a lot of this narrative is dedicated to Wanda. It's that whole line that keeps going on throughout the movie. If they ask Steven if he's happy, and I think if you take a little bit of the plot back from Wanda and you give it back to Strange, it would end a little bit like better.
Yeah.
Because it's something that's so subtle, but I always talk about like emotion and like kind of how you need that because that's how we perceive things, like through emotion. I mean, that's the whole basis of Wanda's arc. It's an emotional arc. It's just the simple question that multiple characters ask him in this movie. Are you happy? Like, are you happy with what happened? Like, are you happy being the Sorcerer Supreme? Like, is it something you really wanted, or are you like miserable with your life because you have to deal with all this now? But yeah, she gets to the headquarters. They go to deal with her,
and they get dealt with.
And they get dealt with in grand fashion. So Reed pulls up, and he's like, Wanda, can you mind? We're trying to have a meeting. We're trying to have a business meeting. This is just the office. So they say, Reed says, can you, like, you need to stop.
Yeah, just knock it off.
Yeah, like, you can't have America, you need to stop. And then she's just like, I'm not gonna stop. Like, I'm gonna get America.
You see this robot's head in my hand?
Yeah, like this was no issue. This was no problem for me. And then Black Bolt. Oh, just real quick on that. I gotta assume in this universe that Reed was, and I guess that does help with the fact that he's the smart. Like, in what Tony Stark can do, Reed Richards can do. Essentially, in this universe, what I'm probably assuming is that he's the one that built the Ultron sentries instead of of Tony.
And built it in a way that it was designed to work.
Right.
Like the shield around the world.
Right. Which it did work. It helped.
For now.
They didn't have to deal with the Scarlet Witch.
And then Reed's like, look, Wanda, I don't want to have to do this.
Yeah, here's my boy, my dog, Black Bolt. You better Google him. He's got some cool powers. He does a cocky little like arm cross.
I hated that.
Yeah, Black Bolt's like, yeah, he shouldn't have came here. He probably thought it, because he can't speak or it'll like destroy a mountain. So he did it. And he's just like, yeah, I hope she tries something. And then Reed says, he can destroy you with with a one word from his mouth. And she goes, what mouth? Then the camera pans. And this man's mouth he has no mouth. And then he panics and he screams and he blows his brain out. And it was like, that was the first one from the audience. It's like, this is gonna happen.
And he's just dead.
And he's dead. Like a core Marvel Comics character dead. And then Reed's like, crap. So then he goes, and then what's the next line? This is the other line.
Because she goes,
this is my favorite line from the entire movie.
He goes, I have 2 kids.
Mm-hmm. Before he says, I have 2 kids. Like,
I know how you feel. I understand, like, if I lost them, like, I'd be upset.
But you can't do this. Like, you can't do this.
And then she's like...
Later, after she kills Black Bolt, she goes...
Are your kids, right?
They have a mother.
Is their mother still around? Yeah. And he goes, yeah. And then she goes, good. Then there will be someone left to raise them.
And then she proceeds to turn the smartest man alive into that pack
spaghetti.
The pack of string cheese you get in your school lunch when you were in 4th grade.
And then his head pops.
And that's 2 gone. And I think intentionally, that's 2 like characters. I'm just not going to recognize that Inhuman show as being real. So that's 2 characters we've never seen before. Inside of the MCU. Gone, like 2 big... Dealt with. So then Mrs. I Can Do This All Day says, you know what? They look at each other, Maria and Peggy look at each other, they're like, you know what, let's do this.
It's on.
Because we're the fighters more. Like, we're more of us like the hand-to-hand fighters, the one with some... You've got some great hand-to-hand skills, and I'm the real powerhouse of this, so let's do this. Nope. Nope. Doesn't work.
Captain Carter gets some licks in, and then Wanda's like, oh, come on. Are you done? And Captain Carter... And, the callback, obviously, I can do this all day. And then Wanda goes, oh, yeah? Watch this. Flings the shield, cuts her in half.
Boom. Dead. I said, you know what they needed to do? They should have had, like, one of the Ultron sentries, like, at, like, the command... Or, like, they should have had, what's her name? Christine at, like, the command board. And it's, like, the Suicide Squad. Like, they're just, like, deceased, like, every single time they die.
I wanted to see Doctor Strange on a balcony just going, ooh!
Yeah. Ooh. And then... I did like this, though. Maria was the one that gave her the... Because, I think it's a little bit of smart writing in the fact that, like, they were aware of the debate of... I think the top 3 was Thor, Captain Marvel, and Scarlet Witch were, like, the 3. Who's the strongest? It kept battling. Obviously, Thor took it for a little bit because he got Stormbreaker and he almost killed Thanos. And then Captain Marvel took it through for a little bit because she was just flying through gigantic ships and just was fine. And then... Scarlet Witch laid that to bed. So, but what I did like, she almost brought her out of the dream walking because of just how hard she was being hit, and I thought that was a cool little touch.
But
nope,
she gets crushed.
Gets crushed by a giant statue.
And again, Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Doctor Strange, but while all this is going on, Doctor Strange is telling him, like, your friends are dying, and
Doctor Strange is in detention?
Yeah, he is in detention, and Mordo's just like, you know what? We are gonna wait for my friends to get back, and then we are gonna see what we're gonna do with you, son. And then Doctor Strange's like, he does the Spider-Man one line, he's like, they're not coming back, Chief. So then they have a cool little fight because the gauntlets that they have on, and I thought this was another cool comic thing, mixing magic with science. Christine Palmer in this universe works for the Baxter Foundation, which should have been, all you core comic fans should have peeked your head that I did when I heard that, because that obviously that's the building that they were in for a while in the comics. But Christine... So basically, my bad. So Mordo and Strange have a cool little fight because the mixture was, she used some sort of magic.
The Sands of Ashanti.
Right, the Sands of Ashanti, and she mixed them with some technology, presumably that Reed helped with, and which makes sense even more in that universe that, like, all the containment facilities were perfect. Like, everything was perfect because that's who Reed Richards is. So...
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. Yeah. Now your kids don't have a father. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a nice little fisticuff.
Right. So because it dampens his ability to use any magical power. So they fight, and like I said, this man Stephen Strange has been in the gym. He can
throw hands now.
Throw hands. I want to see that. You know who probably trained him? The Man Without Fear.
Iron Fist.
Nope. Nope. It's the wrong one. He would have just told him, whenever you go into a place, announce that you're the sorcerer. Announce that you're Doctor Strange. It'll be great.
Yeah. So Strange is loose. Mordo is trapped. He can't get out of a little ditch.
Well, he used him to jump up. It's like classic gymnastics movie.
So now Mordo is trapped down there forever.
And he goes, everyone else is dead. He's just like, now I understand why they don't want anything to do with you. What did he say? He's just like,
I understand why the different universe version of me didn't like you very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, Scarlet Witch finds America Chavez, and then Professor X shows up.
Yeah.
And he's like, Wanda, enough.
Yeah.
Wanda.
I think it's like the whole. Well, it's like a real good homage to House of M.
Yeah.
Essentially, so
he goes in her brain.
I think he even says in House of M, like it's enough. Like right at the beginning of the comic when she's pretending for a bit, he's like enough, and then he snaps her out of it. So they go into they do the thing. They go into a mental space. Well, that's just before it was like a pseudo. Now it's just a straight up horror movie at this point. Got a neat little jump scare where you see the rubble, which gets called back from WandaVision. So essentially, the Wanda that's in that universe is trapped. And through the rubble that she was when she was a kid. And Professor X goes, maybe if I can pull you from the rubble, I can release you, and you could take the body back over. And then some mist shows up, and so they're like in this whole all white room, and some mist shows up, some red mist, and boom, biggest jump scare of the movie. Wanda jumps out. And we thought before she just snaps his neck, and then
upon further review,
we went to the Sky booth upstairs. She ripped his head in half. God, that was a tough drive home. I was on the back roads just looking in my rear view to see if the Scarlet Witch was behind me.
So yeah, Professor X dealt with for like the 5th time in his career.
Can't stay alive. It's tough.
Second redhead that's killed him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she has successfully just taken out the Illuminati. Mm-hmm. Strange. So let's break. What did you think of that?
This whole Illuminati thing?
Yeah.
Reshoots.
Yeah?
Reshoots. Yep. I don't think this was in the movie. I think the cameos were a little bit more spread out. I do think that they probably did plan to have, including but not limited to, Deadpool was probably in this movie at some point. I do think that Professor X was always going to be in this movie. I do think that Captain Carter was always going to be in this movie. I do not think Tom Cruise was ever going to be in this movie. Upon further review, I literally from that first trailer when people were like, "That's Superior Iron Man," I'm like, "That's just definitely Captain Marvel. It's just not him." I do think possibly a Hugh Jackman, maybe at some point. But I think this is all the thing with the expectation. What if this movie just never had any of these cameos? I'm telling you, we got this great thing from Spider-Man No Way Home, but at what cost? Because now a lot of average moviegoers, like, their predication on all of these properties is to have these big callback moments and these big cameos. This is not what the movie is. It's just not.
That was a criticism. The other criticism was like, oh, well, she shouldn't have dealt with them so easily.
Yeah, they're supposed to. That's not the main universe.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
There's billions upon billions.
These characters are, on terms of like expendability, the most expendable. Yeah. They're in the Expendables. That's how expendable they are.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
Doesn't matter if she obliterated this group.
And hey, John Krasinski's probably like 99.9% going to be just the main Marvel Universe Reed Richards as well.
Yeah.
I think they want him to probably get he's going to be like Doctor Strange's new Iron Man, that's new Captain America, more or less. Like, that's just what it's going to be. Like, they probably want him to get older.
So it doesn't matter.
Gray out a bit.
Wanda, they lost not because they weren't incapable of controlling Wanda.
They went up against, and it's said they went up against possibly the most powerful characters they've ever seen.
Hubris.
Yeah.
They went up against hubris.
Yeah, they did.
Their own hubris was just as much a part of their downfall as Wanda was, because they were like, we can just talk to her.
Right. There's all these teams. There's the Inhumans, the Fantastic. It's like the completed Marvel universe. Like 8 through 8's the completed Marvel universe. Like, you have the Inhumans, they have the Fantastic Four, they have the X-Men. Like, they have all these characters. They have the Krees, the Skrulls, like all these big, the Shi'ar, whatever. Like, all these big teams, and all the leaders of those teams were in one room, and they were like, we can call the shots, make these decisions. It's cool. And then this character came in and said, "Nope, I just want to see Billy and Tommy sing about ice cream, so I'm gonna kill all y'all."
Yep.
And it happened.
Yeah.
But they're probably gonna come back
in some form or fashion.
Yeah, Captain Carter probably not. We might not see her in live action unless, presumably, Secret Wars. Because I think Haley Atwell would come back for.
Yeah.
I think everybody's gonna come back for. I don't care what year of Marvel movie you were in, or if it was in the MCU or not. You're gonna be in Secret Wars.
The only one that's not probably, almost certainly not coming back is Patrick Stewart.
Right.
Professor X will be back.
Right.
But not Patrick Stewart.
Played by my boy Ralph Fiennes.
But
you heard it here first, folks.
But Patrick Stewart will not be back.
No.
This was just a wink and a nod, fun thing.
Yeah. I don't think Maria Rambeau is going to be back either. Because Monica's essentially going to be that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's probably going to be John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I'm gonna say we're gonna get Black Bolt again. I think we're gonna, like I said, just pretend it never happened. Even if you introduce them in the Fantastic Four, and that's what happened in the do that. Maybe have the second Fantastic Four movie be the MCU introduction of the Inhumans.
Yeah,
just do something.
As for this, the problem I have with it is it didn't really serve the story.
No, that was more because
this was like a detour.
It was a detour because the movie even felt different. And it's funny because once they cut back from Comertage to that, the movie doesn't feel like the same movie I was watching.
Because while all this is happening, like while Strange is in this new 838 universe, just meandering with America, Wanda is with Wong, going to Wundagore,
right?
Because the Darkhold ends up being destroyed.
Right. So let's get into it. Let's get into the main plot of this movie, and we can start from the beginning. We're at the beginning, and the movie, like we said during this movie starts. This movie starts fast and loud. So it's Defender Strange of whatever universe they're in, and America. They're running. This Strange can speak Spanish, and hold that thought. But they're running away from this being that's chasing them, presumably after America. And America's scared. She doesn't know how to use her powers, and that's a big deal. She's not in control.
Yeah, they get to the Book of Ashanti, and then the demon stops them.
Right. And Strange is like, I can't hold this. And Strange, much like all the other Stranges, including our Doctor Strange, which is dealt with in the next scene, says like, I have to make a difficult choice, but I'm going to make it. Like, I need to take your power, even though it's going to kill you, if this means these beings don't get probably the most precious power in the universe at this time, which is
because you can't control your power, but I can.
Right, yeah, like, the power to cross multiverses is, like, that's probably the most OP power in the MCU at this point. Or the MCM, I guess we got to call it now. He attempts to kill America, not kill America intentionally, but attempts to take her power, which will kill her inadvertently. But then the creature stabs Defender Strange, kills him, but right before he dies, America, because it's in times of stress, I thought they were going to do the whole mutant thing at that point because we knew Patrick Stewart was in this, but I guess not. So I thought they were going to call her a mutant at this point and be like, because that's the whole thing with like being a mutant. Like whenever it happens, it's either during puberty or like a moment of high stress always triggers it. And same thing for her. So a moment of high stress in that situation triggered a portal to open. Obviously she opens it, but she's being held, and then Defender Strange, in his last effort, cuts the strings. She travels with him through the universe. He dies. They're in 616. They're in the main Marvel universe.
Yep.
And then you see Doctor Strange.
At a wedding.
Whose wedding?
Christine's wedding.
Dang it.
Rachel McAdams is back.
So I guess that's just a constant in every universe. He just can't have her. Sad, man.
Rachel McAdams is great in this. She's way more to do.
Oh, yeah.
Than not her Doctor Strange 1 version doesn't have more to do. She's barely in it.
Right.
But the 838 version of Christine is very prominent in this movie. And yeah, we talked about a lot about this in the non-spoiler about he's at the wedding and then he fights a monster, meets up with America and Wong. Wong shows up.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for character arcs, again, this is the first time a character asks him in this movie, like, are you happy? Like, and he tells her, like, because this is big in terms of his, him personally, like, he says, like, I'm good, like, I'm happy, but I wish things could have been different between us.
Yep.
But don't you fret, this is a Marvel movie, so there's action. And like you said, a giant monster attacks New York, because where else are they going to attack? And he sees this girl running into a bus, and then the bus be lifted off the ground. So then he's just like, why is there just a bus floating? This doesn't make sense. And then he does his little magic spells because he learns everything off screen. And boom, giant tentacle monster with one eye. attacking this little girl. What's going on?
Who he recognizes from his quote-unquote dream.
So let's talk about that real quick. So how they set it up is dreams essentially are your different versions of yourself from the universe. That's what they're doing, whatever your dream is. So he dreams about that opening sequence because after the opening sequence, he wakes up out of that dream and he says, okay, this is weird. And he's just like, he sees her for the first time in the normal universe and he goes, you look really familiar. And then he's just like, you're from my dreams. This makes sense.
And she's like, it wasn't a dream.
It wasn't a dream. It was just a different version of you. And then Wong goes, so you mean that dream where I'm running naked?
Wong, the best.
The best.
So yeah, then they have a little conversation and they get caught up to speed about what America can do. And Doctor Strange is like, this is the most powerful thing in the world. And he's like, we need to do something about this. And America's like, huh?
Yeah.
And Wong's like, don't worry. He didn't mean that.
Right.
What he meant to say was, we're going to take you to Comertage and take care of you.
Right.
Is what he meant.
Because Wong's an overall great guy.
Yeah, he's just the best.
He is the best.
And then they find Defender Strange's body, and Strange buries him in a ceiling. And Wong's like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And Strange's like,
I've buried worse. So yeah, then we get to the line where he says, "This wasn't wizardry. This was witchcraft."
Then we meet Wanda. We covered all this.
Right, we covered all that. Wanda's she's gone.
Wanda nukes Comertage.
Oh boy, they did not stand one chance.
We get to see a bit of the old Age of Ultron powers.
I've been waiting for that to come back.
Where she gets inside someone's head and she appears behind them. And
she did it to Agatha too in WandaVision.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always a good trick to pull out. She mixes and matches with the Sokovian accent in this.
I think that's kind of cool because she's been living in America for so long, where it's like the normal like immigrant thing, like where like they start to adopt a little bit of like the American accent. Integrated with their own accent. I think it's a small touch that just lends to the fact that she's incredible and she owns this role now. It's not like it's hers now. Like it's getting to levels of like Chris Evans is Captain America. Yeah. Like she's the Scarlet Witch now.
Strange thinks she has her. He doesn't. He traps her in the mirror dimension and she uses said mirrors to
turn into Pennywise and just gyrates her. Oh, that was amazing. That was awesome.
Yep. She almost gets America, and then America, again, under duress, opens up her powers, portals to 838 with Strange. Wanda's left with Wong, and Wong's like, crap.
Yeah, Wong's like, dang it.
He's chained up, and this is where the Darkhold is inevitably destroyed by one of Wong's kind of underlings. And Scarlet Witch is like, all right, you done messed up, Wong.
Yeah. She's like, I know you know some other I know you know some other stuff. Sure. You got some cool.
And then it's like the classic, like, I'll never tell you, and you'll have to kill me. And she's like, well, all right, well, I'll just kill all your friends. And he's like, all right.
Hold on. He's still like, but then this is again getting into the lore. So he says the Darkhold is a copy, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And he's just like, because I guess everything doesn't need to be in a book. Like, so he says we need to go to Mount Wundagore, which from the comics is, I think that's where people thought she was originally at the end of WandaVision, but it's not. She was just in some random mountain house.
Yeah.
Reading the Darkhold.
So they go to Wundagore, this real Lord of the Rings Sauron-looking tower thing.
Right. And then we get the big nerds. We get the big Chthon thing. So essentially, Chthon is the original creator of the Darkhold.
An artist.
He's an artist. Yeah. So basically,
he's the Charles Dickens of demons.
He is. So essentially, the Darkhold is it's engraved into the walls of Mount Wundagore, the palace on top of Mount Wundagore. And I call it a palace for a specific reason because remember back in WandaVision where Agatha said like you're not like somebody that's born, like you might be Wanda Maximoff, but like the Scarlet Witch is like something that's going to like encompass you. Like you. I
don't think that chaos magic struck you, Barry.
Yeah.
I think it chose you.
Right. So that's actually, as funny as it is, like that's actually the perfect thing. Like it's the whole, I'm not going to do the season 7 of The Flash. I'd rather just stick to the comics in this case because the whole thing is like Barry is the lightning bolt that struck himself because after Crisis, like when he dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths, like the energy that he uses passes through time and strikes him, and it's the whole chicken and the egg thing. So
yeah, so Wanda and Wong, great alliteration, I love it.
Yeah, Wanda and Wong
go
to Mount Wundagore.
Oh, so good. And then so they get there and they're like, trolls.
Right, so there's these big...
The internet trolls showed up.
Yeah, so there's these big giant beasts that are guarding Mount Wundagore, and you think, crap.
Oh, man, Wanda and Wong are going to team up.
Oh, that was the movie you were waiting for.
Nope.
I know you're really waiting for the Morbius and Wong movie. That's what you're really waiting for.
And then the trolls bow.
And you're like, huh? What's going on?
And there's like a pan, and there's a big statue of the Scarlet Witch. And Scarlet Witch is like, oh, this isn't a tomb. Dude, it's a throne. Yeah. It's my throne.
Yeah. I like the sound of that. If only Quicksilver.
Oh. Now I'm mad again.
And
then basically all the Illuminati stuff happens.
Right.
And interspersed with the Wong and Wanda stuff.
Which, again, that's where I think the plot kind of deviates and it just does not feel seamless.
Because nothing really kicks up until we get past all that.
Right.
And then Strange gets to the Book of Ashanti. And
right. I think that the only things that happened from that, I think they wanted just the fact that Reed Richards said the word incursion, so like people like me could be like, "Oh crap! Like it's happening! Like it's happening."
But then another person,
I called it. My theory came true about the collapse in the multiverse starting in this movie.
But then we didn't even need Reed Richards to explain that because in the post-credit scene,
Charlize Theron shows up.
We'll get to that, but yeah. So there's a great slasher-esque sequence with Rachel McAdams and Doctor Strange.
They were like, so we sat in the back of both theaters. Like people like legitimately jumped like when she because what movie were they referencing? Because even the shot framing was the same. I can't remember what more. Oh, I think it was the Terminator.
Yeah.
I think it was the first Terminator. Like it was literally the framing of the shot was exactly like that movie.
Yeah.
So
running down a big hallway, throwing obstacles in front of Wanda. She's doing like a zombie kind of a run.
Right. It's like her face is covered. I think her face is covered in oil, like the oil from the Ultron bots. It's not blood, but it's cool because it's like in the trailers, it seemed like blood the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
And then
this is a Marvel movie. Like, it's not for
they get to the door. They find the Book of Ashanti, and then Wanda obliterates it.
Dog, when she showed up and she like dragged America by her hair to bring, I was like, oh my god, she's about this.
Yeah, so Wanda destroys the Book of Ashanti.
Yeah, with one hand.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh no. Curtains for the heroes. America uses her powers, punts Rachel McAdams and Doctor Strange into yet another universe.
And then Wanda, like original universe Wanda, opens a portal. Or the portal, she uses America to
portal back to herself.
Right.
Leaving the old Wanda, the 838 Wanda. Distraught and just in a weird room. And then she's like, oh my god, my kids.
Yeah. And
then, because that'll come back. So yeah, again, so Christine and Doctor Strange are in another universe. And as is the theme of this entire movie, we gotta find another Doctor Strange. So they're running through this universe that is looking pretty worse for wear, and they come across the Sanctum Sanctorum, which also looks worse for wear.
I do have one question. So, in that sequence, what were those red streaks that were...
I was wondering that.
I don't know what that is, but that's got to be something, right?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was just mirages or kind of because this universe is kind of weirdly collapsing on itself, so I thought they were just might have been car taillights miraging.
I just think it's too because they were moving so fast. I think it's too convenient. I think, and there's no people in that universe because essentially they're all dead and the universe is now going. But it's just
so I didn't know if they were after images or what, but who knows?
It's gotta be. It's something. It's gotta be something.
So yeah, they get to the sanctum and then they see a spooky Doctor Strange in the window, and then he goes in and he's like, hello, and then this other Doctor Strange is like, get out, why are you here? And it is not, contrary to what everyone thought going into this movie, it is not Strange Supreme from What If. It is just a aggrieved version of Stephen Strange who has lost everything.
However, what happened? Because he said he lost.
Yeah, Doctor Strange asked him, he goes, what happened to you? And he goes, I lost. And then he goes, to whom? And then he changes the subject. So my theory that I threw to you was, could it have been Kang?
This time, yeah. I don't think it's Thanos because
because he would have said
he probably if
it was Thanos.
But like you said, and again, another thing that I think was cut from this movie was any ties because it's just convenient and weird that when they had the D23, this was, I think, 2 years ago, and they were doing the big slate, and then this was the first, I think this is the announcement for the Fantastic Four that day, and he was going through the whole panels, and he even said, Loki is the start of the multiversal trilogy, and it's Loki into Spider-Man No Way Home, into Doctor Strange, which is going to culminate everything. It was weird that we went through all these things with Loki, and then none of it shows up in this movie. It was just a little weird that nothing paid off. So I do think that Jonathan Majors and Tom Hiddleston were originally supposed to be in this movie after the whole multiverse thing was confirmed, but I think they were cut to include maybe essentially what they thought was a simpler plot. And because Loki's probably the best example of having like an extraordinary plot, be kind of simplified and understandable, but still leave room for like theories and stuff. But yeah, I think that they were supposed to be in this, more specifically Jonathan Majors as Kang, but just wasn't.
Yeah, so Doctor Strange and the aggrieved Doctor Strange, he's like, give me the Darkhold. Where is it? And other Doctor Strange is like, I got it right here. Where better place to put it than right next to me, obviously. He's like, you've been reading it? And he's like, yeah, I've been reading it.
Doing a little night reading.
And then Doctor Strange is like, let me read it. And then Doctor Strange is like, all right.
Right, so that was his next thought, is if they can't get the Book of Ashanti, then but he doesn't tell Christine that at first, but I think he always knew what he was going to do after the Book of Ashanti was destroyed.
He's like, I'm going to read the Darkhold. Yeah. I'm going to open it. Because no lessons were learned.
Right.
Classic Stephen Strange. Yeah. And then he's like, give it. He's like, all right, I'll give it, but you got to give me Christine. And Doctor Strange is like, absolutely not. Yeah. I'm not in control of a woman here.
Yeah, that's wrong.
That's not my job. You don't control what a woman does with her body. Public service announcement.
PSA from Rob.
Yeah, and then Q, just a wonderful fight sequence.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's my favorite sequence in this entire movie. Out of a movie that had Reed Richards and the fan cast that we got right, and also a movie that introduced one of the greatest comic storylines of all time.
This was took a page right out of the Suicide Squad with the Harley Quinn sequence in the hallway.
Yeah, yep.
We get pretty much that, where they fight each other with musical notes.
Yep. Sorcery
and magic, and it's one of those things where like a comic book panel came to life.
Right.
And it's awesome. And I saw people complain about it, and it's corny. It's comics!
Yeah.
It's supposed to be corny.
They're the dumbest
They're so
things.
dumb.
They're...
And this was so dumb.
Remember when we talked about the God of Hammers thing, and we had this joke running, and then I sent you that video because in the new Thor comics, that Thor beats the God of Hammers, and we were like, this can't be real. There's a God of Hammers, and you guys are complaining about people fighting with music?
Yeah, but that fun is quickly eradicated, because at the end of this fight, a grief stranger is chucked out a window and impaled on a fence.
And then his third eye opens.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Again, that Sam Raimi
one more thing.
Little horror. I love it. And then, so he opens the Darkhold, and he's like, gonna have to dreamwalk. And Christine's like, wait a second.
All you strangers are the same.
Yeah, and she's like, wait a minute.
You guys are all great.
How do you
jerks.
dreamwalk into your own universe? Don't you have to have another counterpart there? And he's like, it doesn't have to be an alive counterpart.
Yeah.
Cue the Evil Dead.
Sam Raimi, hand out of the grave. Doctor Strange, Defender Strange is back.
They hung the what is it? Chekhov's gun. It was Chekhov's dead body. They planted it in the first act.
So smart. So cool.
They planted it in the first act to return in the second act. Doctor Strange is piloting his deceased counterpart to Wundagore for a showdown with Wanda, and then more horror stuff happens. The evil spirits show up, and they're like, Doctor Strange, you've been doing necromancy.
Yeah, he tells Christine, you got to protect my body while I dreamwalk. And she's just like, from what? He's just like, there's some beings in here that don't like the fact that we do this. So basically, the souls of the Darkhold, the souls of the damned from the Darkhold, come out, and they're like, hey.
Doctor Strange.
Do you mind? Do you mind?
You crossed the line.
Yeah, you crossed the line, Doctor Strange.
Who knew the Darkhold had a line?
Yeah, I thought the Darkhold was the definition of having no line.
This is the line right here. But then, so there's a great horror sequence. Christine gets something to do. She pulls out that urn from the first movie when Caecilius was like, you don't know what to do with that, do you? Doctor Strange is like, that. I don't know. He's like, you're right. Christine knows what to do with it.
A very horror movie line where she said,
oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
It sounds like it came right out of like a Resident Evil game.
Oh my god.
And she was like, go back to hell.
Yeah.
And then boom! She does like the Coulson thing from Avengers.
Yeah, yep.
He's like, oh, so that's what it does.
So cool.
What's even cooler?
Oh my gosh! So she tells Strange, because Strange is like almost dying because of the strain this is putting on him, and essentially what happens is that she says, you are the Sorcerer Supreme. Like,
not yet.
Not yet.
Because Wong's still alive.
Right. But I did talk about this last week. You gotta, like I said, you gotta think that Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme, but people around like in the Magic, they gotta know, like, Stephen Strange is the guy.
Watch your mouth.
Like, you know how, like, Michael Jordan's not won every MVP while he was playing? Like, he's still the best player in the league.
Yeah, like Wong.
Regardless, Stephen Strange is the most powerful one. Like, he's the one that has the most power, knows the most. Well, not the most, because he doesn't have that cool. He doesn't have that cool Supreme book.
Yep.
You think that Wong's just gonna give him? Well,
I wouldn't.
Wong's dying in the third one.
No,
for sure.
We're not doing this.
He's dying in the third one.
You have to own the fact that you were wrong.
I was wrong
about Wong dying in this movie.
I was right about the incursions, and what was I? There was something else I was right about. There's what was the other? I had a big theory that I had right.
I don't remember.
I'll remember it.
I just know you were wrong about Wong.
Yeah, I was wrong about Wong.
So yeah, Doctor Strange, he harnesses the power and creates a dark spirit cape, taken right out of the page from your friendly neighborhood, Michael Morbius. Morbius said he copied my whole flow.
That had a little cheer from the crowd when he got in the first screening when he got everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's
very cool.
Cool.
It's very cool.
It's so that's what you need to do with a character like Doctor Strange, and that's why I really like that music fight. You got to be innovative with a character that can pretty much do whatever you want. Yeah, you have to be a little innovative with it.
He shows up, dark zombies. Doctor Strange shows up, and Wong's like, "Yeah!" And then he sees Doctor Strange, and he's like, "Ooh!" And Wanda's like, You're not taking this from me, Strange. You're not doing it. I'm not gonna let you." And then so there's a bit of a tussle. Wanda again gets the upper hand. And then Strange is like, "All right, I can't do this. Like, I can't beat her the way I am."
Right. And then Wong kind of traps Wanda in a little orb for a second, and he tells Strange, like, take her power. Like, you got to do it. But like Professor X said, you're not like the other Strangers. You're not.
And America even says, like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do this. And Strange is like, nope, you're going to do this because you're going to control your powers.
This time.
And then hero moment for America Chavez. She steps up. She's like, yeah, I am going to do this.
Hits her with one of the cleanest right hooks in the MCU.
Wanda just eats it.
Yeah, she eats it and she has such a creepy little smile after she hits her too.
And she's like,
so
this.
And then hits her right again. She's like, boom. Hits her again.
And then, because America's got a plan. She opens up a portal to the 838 universe, punches Wanda into. They kind of tussle each other into the living room of the other Wanda Maximoff, scaring the bejesus out of Billy and Tommy.
Right, so they say like the witch is back, like she's back, and they're like, "Mom, Billy, get away! Like she's gonna come for you again." And then
Wanda tries to talk to them, like, "Hey, like it's me, it's your mom," and she's acting like real, like panicky and like frantic,
right? And
because she didn't expect this, and then they're hiding from her, and that it devastates her basically. That her kids are afraid of her. That because the whole movie she contests that she's not a monster because she's trying to do this for her kids, and her kids just see her as a monster
because that's not her kids. Those are not her kids. She never had kids.
Yep, and America's like getting ready to finish it off, and Strange is like, "Nah, just let this happen."
Yeah, he says like, she's like, "I'm gonna pull her back in and keep punching her into different."
Strange is like, "No."
That's a good line to use to somebody when you're in a fight. I'm gonna punch you into a new.
This is a teachable moment for young Wanda, and then she has like a full like just emotional breakdown.
Yeah, when she drops to her knees and starts, I was like, wow.
And then you get the moment from the trailer where the other Wanda kind of like puts her hand under her chin, and then she goes, "Know that they'll be loved." In reference to her kids, basically saying like, I understand like your grief and why you've done everything you've done, but just know that. And it's the thing that Wong even says to Wanda earlier in the movie when he goes, shouldn't it give you just enough kind of solace to know that in another universe, like they're together, like you're with them and they're happy. And Wanda's like, it's not enough. Like I need to be the one that's there. But this Wanda tells her like, know that they'll be loved. And then America kind of like pulls Wanda back into the main universe, giving her like that closure. And and then we kind of wrap up from here. So they leave. Strange leaves with Wong and America, and Wong leaves with America, because and Strange stays behind. Strange is in another body. Yeah, they have to go get him.
But Wanda, more importantly, says like nobody's ever going to use the
Darkhold ever again.
Right. So what she does is she collapses she destroys
Wonder Gore.
But there's
presumably herself.
But
presumably,
yeah,
I said,
because there's a little flash of red, chaos magic before the whole mountain collapses. So either because she's pretty powerful at this point. Either she teleported out of there.
This is a clear allusion to, because in the comics when Wanda is in her, is this after?
No, this is before how this is disassembled, because disassembled is where basically all the Avengers start going crazy. Yeah. Like, I think what happens, like Jack of Hearts kills Ant-Man, like the Korean scrolls just starting, like, everything that can't go wrong goes wrong. In
the comics, she retreats to Wundagore to isolate herself for 7 years.
Right.
She's off the grid, and presumably we're going to get a version of that with this.
Right. So
we're not going to we're putting Wanda on ice for a while. She did not die. I would be stunned if that's
Elizabeth Olsen just signed like a 7-picture. Yeah, she's
played coy with that, saying like, "Oh, I sign an extension every time I'm in a thing."
Yeah,
like it doesn't mean anything.
Right. She's in this she's one of the, and it's a really good example of like movies and TV shows like taking these lesser characters, and not that Scarlet Witch is lesser, I'm just talking about versus Iron Man versus Captain America. Like, she's not on their caliber, but like taking them and making them on that caliber. That's what the MCU has done.
And we're at a point in the MCU where there's so many characters that we can afford to do something like this.
Yeah.
We can shelve the Scarlet Witch for 5-6 years.
And I talk about the average fan and moviegoer because I came back and talked to some people that are just like, average fans of the MCU, and the fact that like they've seen, pretty much everything. They don't have any comic knowledge. They're not like diving deep into anything, and they're just like, well, I can't believe they turned a hero into a villain. And I'm like,
it's more complicated than that.
It's not that simple. It's just not.
Yeah, and like I said, I would be stunned if this is the last that we see of Scarlet Witch in the MCU. I'd put it at like a less than 1% chance that this is the end of her.
0.001%.
I think this is just, we're writing that character off for a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, if to even go deeper into that, like, this is the lowest she's been. Like, now it's all but up from here.
Right.
Like, and I think that was the intention. Like, now it's going to be her trek to getting, like, how he throws away that line, like,
we'll get you back on the lunchbox.
Like, yeah, now she's really going to, and I think that's going to help. I wonder if they're going to do, because what I thought they were going to do, like, in WandaVision, and this is when the theory time was big theories, like, I thought they were going to throw away a line that, like, she was adopted, and, like, her and Pietro were adopted because of Magneto's her real dad. I thought they were going to throw, like, we might see that contention, because the big thing about the X-Men is, like, they call her the Pretender because of what she did to the mutants. They, like, just ousted her from the universe.
Yeah.
So
it's honestly a stroke of genius on Marvel's part, because the next time she does pop up in something, the reception is going to be massive. You know what I mean? Because of this movie.
Right.
People complain about whatever she went through in this movie and her arc, but it's really brilliant.
Right. I believe, what's her next thing she's in?
We don't know.
Is she getting her own movie?
That's considered, but she's already said that she's not going to be in the Agatha Harkness show. And then she doesn't really fit into any of the future projects.
What are you talking about? She fits perfectly into Hawkeye.
She doesn't fit into Ant-Man Quantumania. She obviously doesn't.
Well,
she's not showing up in that.
I know. I know.
She doesn't fit in to Guardian. She doesn't fit into Thor.
Yeah, no space stuff.
She doesn't fit into Blade.
Nope.
Not even Fantastic Four, she's probably not even going to show up.
No.
So she's going to be written off for quite some time, which is cool.
The X-Men might be, because the X-Men thing might explain.
I could see them using her as an entry point to X-Men, just because you have to consider the X-Men as like this new project, right? As much as people are familiar with the X-Men and have been dying to see them, general audience wise, you have to figure out a way to bridge the MCU to the X-Men, and she's the perfect person to do that.
Right, because my whole thing, especially from WandaVision, I got some more like confirmation on the theory, which I think would kind of be cool. Is like the whole thing is like she already had, like, her power stems from, like, she already had the genetic potential to get there. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, that's the whole thing about being immune. You have the genetic materials to become one. Like, so she was already a witch on top of this. And, like, that's the whole thing about episode 8 that Agatha was talking about. Like, you already had all these things, but that's not what's important. Like, what's important is, like, that you could become you have the potential to become the Scarlet Witch, but like she just like use the probability hex, and it's just like that's the witch part. But like, how are you able to use telekinesis? Like, that's like the mutant part of this. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think they more than likely are going to just use her as a bridge between the MCU and the X-Men because she's familiar to both worlds.
Right.
But that's, 5+ years in the future,
right.
which like I said, I think is really cool that they can just do this now. They have so many characters where they're like, all right, we're going to write Scarlet Witch off kind of like a TV show. Like we're going to write this person off for a while and then, down the line, they're going to come back. But for now, she's off the table. And then, we get into our post-mortem of this film with Strange and Wong back at Comertage training America in the art of sorcery. And then
which I thought was kind of interesting because I didn't know she had the potential to be a sorcerer. So I guess her power does stem from the mystic arts to some capacity.
Yeah.
But she's another Young Avenger set up essentially. Like we got another one of them.
And then they part ways and then Strange is back at his place, fixes his watch. And, the through line of the movie, Are You Happy? Finally seems happy.
Right.
Fixes his watch, isn't reflecting so much on the loss of Christine. Because he has that nice little parting shot with her where he goes, I love you in every universe, basically. And then he walks outside and then he's overcome by,
the third eye.
And the third eye opens and then the movie ends.
Yeah. The Darkhold got him.
Because he
can't help himself.
He opened the Darkhold.
He opened the Darkhold. He gave Thanos the Time Stone. He opened the Darkhold.
And then we get to the first post-credit scene, which is the post-credit scene with implications. As we referenced earlier, Charlize Theron opens up. She's like, hello, you don't know who I am. I'm not going to introduce myself because I'm here for the nerds.
Yeah. And guilty. Because Clea's in the MCU now.
Yep.
Who I think when this was the first turnaround, they thought that Rachel McAdams was playing Clea. But like before we even knew what her character was, I think that's who people thought she was playing. But she was just Christine Palmer.
Yep.
But Charlize Theron was at the premiere. Oh, no, she wasn't. But I think she posted on Twitter, the cat's out of the bag, and she was wearing purple as Clea, as one Clea such does.
Yep.
So
she comes out. She's like, hello, look, you caused an incursion.
Oh, no. This is it.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, this is the start.
So
you broke the multiverse.
So she opens up a portal to, looks like the Dark Dimension.
Yeah.
Yep. Because she is Dormammu's niece.
Yep.
So,
hilarious.
Yeah. So she's like, let's go. We're going on an adventure. Are you open?
It's like Thanos and who was Angelina Jolie's character from Eternals?
Thena?
Yeah, it's like Thanos and Thena being cousins. It's hilarious.
And then, yeah. So she's like, are you ready? Are you ready for Doctor Strange 3? And he's like, yeah, I'm ready. And then his third eye opens and they vault into the Dark Dimension.
Like, are you afraid? And he's like, And again, I thought this was going to be dealt with in this movie, and I guess we're going to have to hold up. He has not been humbled yet. He's got to get humbled by something. I don't know what it's going to be because now he's beating the Scarlet Witch. Like, I don't know what this man is. He beat Thanos in like, what else? And I think what's going to be cool, it's like, and this is my favorite part about Avengers and New Avengers and the collapse of the multiverse. Like, it is revealed that like a big part of this has to do with Doctor Doom, but essentially, like, for the most part, it's like, it's not like, it's like a tsunami happening. It's like a devastating, horrible thing that takes lives, but it's like, there's nothing you can't logically get mad at, like, a thing. Like, you could get mad at the thing that came from, but it's nature. Like, the multiverse collapsing is it's nature. Like, it's just that would be an interesting perspective because it's like, now the thing that humbles him is just like all that power that you amassed. Like, you're not fighting some being that you can get the upper, like, this is just the way that order's supposed to go. And like, your whole thing, Doctor Strange, is about order. Like, this is your whole thing. Like, you're keeping the natural order of things. And like, this is the natural order is that the universes are collapsing. So,
and the second post-credit scene, Bruce Campbell, ladies and gentlemen.
Himself. Evil Dead reference.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
It's over. Great. I loved it.
People were mad.
I loved it.
They were mad. And I was like, you were never promised a post-credit scene to set... We're not promised.
We got that one.
We already got it. Relax. Sorry you waited in the theater.
Yeah.
Sorry you had to sit there on your phone for 4 more minutes.
It invokes the Captain America post-credit scene from Spider-Man Homecoming. And obviously Bruce Campbell does rock up in this movie in a minor role as a hot dog vendor or a pizza vendor.
Balls.
Pizza Paul?
pizza Paulie's, whatever, or the pizza, whatever. He sells pizza balls and not pizza slices because it's a new universe.
Yeah.
Cool little touch that Sam Raimi added. Whenever they were in a new universe, the frame rate changed on the movie. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then that's it, basically, until we see Doctor Strange again. Mm-hmm. And we promised it from Doctor Strange 1. The bill comes due always, and it came due for Wanda.
Yeah, but not for Steven. Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for... And I guess it goes to, like, the first movie, second movie, third movie. Like, first movie is the introduction, and it's, like, the hero moment. Second movie is usually where you get the dog... where you get the dog poop kicked out of you. And it didn't really, in this movie, it didn't happen to him. Like, Captain America 2, like, the whole infrastructure of what he was built on was destroyed. Mm-hmm. Thor 2, there was elves. I don't know. I guess we're not counting Thor 2.
Yeah, because Thor Ragnarok is honestly the one where he lost everything. Mm-hmm. You know?
And I guess that's what I think. That's hopefully they make Doctor Strange 3 a little bit more of a contained
I think
story.
It will be.
Yeah,
because
this be a little bit more. Yeah,
this became, as it developed, it became pretty clear that this was going to serve as kind of a WandaVision post-mortem as well as a Doctor Strange sequel. And I think it succeeded in kind of both aspects.
Right. I agree. And this movie, if I were to, rate it, not the number rating, but kind of like just talk to how I felt, I do think this is I think it's a solid lore entry, like building the story of the MCU. This is a crucial needed piece. Adds to the magic side because it wasn't lacking, but it started to get overtaken by the Disney Plus shows of where we were at, because Loki had magic in a different aspect, but Loki was more about the multiverse itself. And this movie definitely added a lot of like the demonic aspects, like finally the first talk of Chthon, the Darkhold.
Mephisto confirmed?
Possibly. I do think the next movie is going to be, if they're going to do it.
Oh, no.
Is it going to be Nightmare? I thought Nightmare was going to be the villain of this movie.
Mephisto's speculation continues.
He's never showing it. They're just... I know this movie's not showing in China, but, like, Mephisto's never going to be in... I just am convinced he's never going to be in a Marvel movie.
It's because freaking Catherine Hahn in episode 2 of WandaVision had to say... Someone said the devil's in the details, and Catherine Hahn said, that's not the only place he is. And ever since then...
Twitter said... I just exploded.
Ever since then, people have been pining for Mephisto. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. But yeah, not too bad of an entry. So the big thing going around is the ranking the properties, or the 5 Marvel movies that came out since, I believe it was
Black Widow. Yeah,
Black Widow. So in the last 2 years, what's come out? Putting you on the spot. What you got for me? So you have Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, No Way Home, Doctor Strange.
Man, I really like this movie a lot. I just think from the emotional beats that Wanda in particular hits, from the different kind of direction that Sam Raimi gives it, I think I like this better than Spider-Man No Way Home.
Wow.
Just because we've talked about it. Spider-Man No Way Home has those fan crowd pleasing moments, but strip that away.
Yeah, I talked about that on here too. I said if you take away the crowd just absolutely erupting when Andrew Garfield comes on screen, if I really am to get it, that scene's a little dry. That scene's a bit dry. Like as a scene in a movie, there's nothing going on. It's just a guy that just pops up out of nowhere.
And there's nothing what this Doctor Strange movie did is it let Sam Raimi cook.
Right, and that's what's important. I don't think people think about that enough in terms of just movie going as a whole.
Just think of the moments, think of the camera shots. He was using cameras in a way that most of these Marvel movies don't.
There was using colors. This movie had color in it.
Well, that, and like you could tell certain shots in this movie were shots for storyline purposes. Like they served a purpose. Spider-Man No Way Home. Do you remember any specific camera shot moments from it?
The only one is the apartment scene, and you can tell they spent a lot of time on that apartment scene. But beyond that, nothing. There's nothing that's
the main villain is built upon the back of a totally different thing.
Yeah, motivation and universe.
Yep. Whereas this had a villain that we've literally seen since 2013.
We've seen her since she was a kid.
and we've seen that story play out, and she's excellent. You know, obviously it does have a pretty meandering middle bit, but I think I like this better than Spider-Man No Way Home. Those are my 1, 2. And then probably Shang-Chi 3, which I really like too. And then Eternals, which has its moments. And then Black Widow just is what it is.
Yeah.
I think I like Eternals better than Black Widow. So that would be my 5. I think originally I didn't think I liked this better than Spider-Man No Way Home, but now that I'm talking through it, it just had more that was visually interesting to me than Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
I love Spider-Man No Way Home. I loved how it made me feel. I love seeing Andrew Garfield again, and I love seeing Tobey Maguire again. And Tom Holland brought his A game. It has some incredible, emotional moments. It really does. But this movie, it made me feel to a lesser extent to how Guardians 1 made me feel.
This movie?
Yeah.
Wow. Or Spider-Man No Way Home or this movie?
This movie.
Oh, wow.
Because just of how different it was. Like, it made me, like, sit up in my seat and be like, oh, like, this is, like, a different thing. Like, this is unique to the MCU, Whereas Spider-Man No Way Home was, like... Spider-Man No Way Home was basically, like, the best of what the MCU can give you, like, dialed up to, like, a 10. Like, this is, like, we're playing the hits. You know what I mean?
And I think that's a lot of the reason people didn't like this movie is because... there's no Hugh Jackman coming out, ripping out the claws, going through a full fight. Like, that's just not what this movie, was about.
Much like, I said this during a non-spoiler review. What do you mean WandaVision was just a show about Wanda and Vision?
Right. I remember, when the show ended, people were disappointed. And that's the common theme that keeps happening. And this was my rant that I was ready to go on.
What do you mean Doctor Strange 2 was just about Doctor Strange?
And I'm going to get into it.
Go ahead, go off, King.
We need to stop being so reliant on cameos for story. That cameos do not necessarily need to extend story. Cool that in the end of Deadpool, he was running around killing the other Wolverine. That does not change the movie if that's not in the movie. I know it's a post-credit scene, but still it's the same thing. I think we're in a time at the MCU where it's like the comic thing where anybody can show up, but it's not realistic. Essentially, it's just not. Like, you got to think a bit logically at times and say, hey, you probably can't just get 20 actors that were in movies 15 years ago to all be on the same schedule.
Spider-Man No Way Home lined up absolutely perfectly. It wasn't always the plan.
No, it wasn't. I gotta imagine. They even said that movie was just a Craven movie when they first started thinking about stuff. Just how this movie was probably going to be Mordo versus Doctor Strange, and probably had Nightmare as the main villain. Like, the bill comes to, like, something that was darker that Steven was let in. Like, that was what this movie started as. Like, and now it got here because of this fan service thing that we're talking about. And, like, again, it's this whole age of nostalgia thing that I always talk about. Like, this does not need to... Just because somebody's in the movie does not make it better or worse. Like, because there's a fan service moment does not make the story itself better or worse. Like, obviously, Spider-Man No Way Home is a caveat because... But again, it's not Professor X in the Multiverse of Madness. Like, it was Spider-Man No Way Home, so there were 3 Spider-Man.
And honestly, this movie is emblematic to your point, because honestly, you could have taken all those guys out and probably had even better of a movie than what you had.
Because the plot would have stayed a little bit more tried and true if that's the case. So, again, my whole point is, like, I think people put it in... You
could have, instead of doing that whole thing with the Illuminati, you could have just brought him to a universe where Mordo was the Sorcerer Supreme.
Right.
And had your Doctor Strange Mordo payoff in that sequence.
Right.
Instead of doing the whole Illuminati thing.
Yeah, I just remember walking out of that theater and, like, people were like, oh, this movie's... I think some kid goes, Marvel missed, and it's just like, there was just no big cameos or nothing. I expected so... I was like, why are you... You were never promised this. Like, there was no promise to say, oh, we're going to have all these... There's no promise. I don't know when this became, like, just a normal thing that, like, these studios need to give us all these things. Like, no, that's just not realistic. It simply isn't. Like, you're talking about you want, like, these 5, 10, 15 characters in these movies. Like, Spider-Man No Way Home they already had the villains, like, they already were in the movie, and then that's just 2 more people you needed to add, versus you're talking about 10, 15 B to A-list actors that you want in just
for, like, 20 seconds.
Just for 20 seconds, it's just not realistic. And again, and remember my fear? This movie it split my expectation. It overcame it because this was a Doctor Strange movie. It was. And that was my biggest fear, that Benedict Cumberbatch was going to get absolutely sidelined. He might have been contested by Elizabeth Olsen, but I don't think, and I think the end of this movie really helped. Like that whole through line, like, are you happy? And then the nice scene with Christine at the end, like, this is a Doctor Strange movie.
Like I said, she's in it more than she was in the first movie.
Right. And like you said, this was it was a Doctor Strange movie after. Yeah, it was.
Starring
Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yeah. And, the Scarlet Witch was the villain.
Right. That's it. Simple. That's a lot more simple than you guys make it out to be.
Yeah.
If people tempered their expectations of these big universe shattering movies.
And what was the first thing I said to you when we walked out of the first time?
People are gonna hate this. People are not gonna like this.
I even walked out of it going, I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. And then I went into the second viewing knowing exactly what it was. I walked out of the second viewing going, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Right. And like I said, it's too many glaring plot holes with the whole incursion thing that keeps getting to me. And it's the whole thing about kind of this whole kind of nexus that we're in right now. At the end of this movie gets a little finicky.
Yeah.
About like
they're gonna have to figure out the rules here.
Right, it's the rules
at some point.
Like what's the and again,
because you posited your theory about Spider-Man compared to this as far as the doppelgangers and the alternate universe versions, but we don't know for sure.
Right.
Someone's gonna have to explain something at some point.
Right, and then the Loki thing on top of that, because the universe was especially because how does this work? Because like Loki was because remember the Loki season finale, and people are like, oh, they actually did like this feels like a Avengers movie type of thing to do, like where the universe itself has started branching, and it's just like, so do those universes essentially have to have pasts and like that happen? I mean, it'd be simultaneously, but they need to get to where they are in the present. So, but then again, like, are those universes of possibilities that we talked about in What If? Or is it my Spider-Man No Way Home thing where it's like different dimensions that also have their own timelines that split off?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, at some point someone's going to have to explain something so that this all gets uniform, makes sense, right? Because they're doing something really ambitious. Like, you thought the Infinity Saga was ambitious? That was simple compared to what's going on here. This was one singular villain.
No pun intended. This was infinitely more simple than what Secret Wars is going to be.
Like, you have one villain, you have Thanos, he has a mission, he has the thing that he wants to get, and he has a goal, and the heroes are going to stop him. That's the Infinity Saga in a nutshell.
Right.
This, we don't even know yet. Mm-hmm. We haven't even seen Kang yet, truly in his full form.
And then, I mean, to go into the Secret Wars thing, Doctor Doom is essentially like, and he's not even... He's the antagonist, but he's not villainous. I mean, if you really want to boil it down for Secret Wars, he's the person that saved the multiverse. He's the one that he saved everything because he was able to compile everything back into one universe in the battle world. Like, he saved everybody. He saved like the literal annihilation of like, I talked about it, like, people don't quite like they're not able to perceive like the idea of like infinity. Like, I'm talking trillions upon trillions. He's the only person that was able to get it to somewhere just so like humanity in every universe didn't die. So like Doctor Doom's another person that could show up and be like, yeah, something's coming and I'm going to deal with it because this guy Reed Richards is probably an idiot and you guys just think he's a genius. I'm just not going to stand for it.
Vindicated. Then you
have Franklin Richards and Galactus on top of that. And then you have the Celestials on top of that. And then you have whatever the heck the post-credit scene in Shang-Chi was. Like, you got so much stuff that's going on. Then you have all the Captain Marvel stuff in space. Then you have the High Evolutionary making hybrid creatures in Guardians 3. And then you have Thor with Gore going around killing all the gods. And then you have Moon Knight with actual gods. Then you have Hawkeye with his family.
You have Captain America.
You have Captain America. You have the Skrulls.
You have Captain America battling racism.
Yeah. You have the Skrulls running around.
Battling racism.
Yeah. You have Agatha Harkness.
Battling racism. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Damn, that one doesn't work.
Oh, 2 for 3. 2 for 3. What else you got going on? What else is happening in the MCU?
Oh, I mean, Miss Marvel's coming up.
Yeah, we have Miss Marvel. Am I missing something?
No.
I talked about the Eternals.
I think Midnight Suns is possibly coming together.
With Blade, right?
Yep.
So you have another whole mystical aspect.
Daredevil.
You have Daredevil and Kingpin running amok. Punisher's probably out somewhere screaming and shooting things.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's what we have. We have a tried and true universe now where, like I said, we don't need to see Scarlet Witch for a while because we got all this other stuff going on. And that's fine. You know? That's the best part about it.
Yeah. And that's Doctor Strange 2. Multiverse of Madness.
Really liked it.
Shout out Sam Raimi. Oh, I should probably rank them, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you have my list, but just Spider-Man No Way Home?
Nope. People are not going to like my list one bit.
Oh, I want to hear it. Now I want to hear it.
So Black Widow's still 5. That doesn't change. and I think I liked Black Widow more than most people, but not for the same reasons.
It was fine.
It's not the story. I thought the movie was... There was bits that were well made.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. There were some cool action bits in there.
That movie would have been great if it would have came out like 6 years ago.
In 2017 when it should have.
Yeah.
Right after Civil War.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have got Florence Pugh.
Right.
That's and David Harbour because they weren't who they were now. So
right.
Rachel Weisz was though. Put some respect on Rachel Weisz's name.
Big facts.
So that's 5. No, I hate to do it. I put Doctor Strange 4, and this is really where I'm gonna get a lot of hate here. I'm putting Spider-Man No Way Home 1 for reasons that we've talked about ad nauseum in here. I'm putting this is tough because I think I'm the number one Eternals stan in the world. I actually, upon rewatching, I really like how you feel about that's how I feel about it. I really enjoy that movie. It's more of a philosophical based movie. That's my bag. It's more of like a philosophically based movie with a lot of bigger ideas. For comic fans, like it's a lot of great stuff that goes on in there. Like it's just the movie, and again with Chloe Zhao, like it felt more real than some of the other Marvel movies. Like it just felt like more lived in a bit, and it's crazy for characters that have been alive for that long and that are immortal feel more relatable than some of the characters we have now. And then. So I'm going to actually put Shang-Chi 2. Like I've said, Shang-Chi's a special movie. Actually, hold on. I'm putting Shang-Chi 1.
Whoa!
And I'm going to put Spider-Man No Way Home 2 and Eternals 3, Doctor Strange 4, and Black Widow 5. Don't send us any hate emails. It's too late. It's almost midnight.
It is almost midnight. We've gone for like 2 hours.
We have.
We gotta
There's
get
no
out of here.
time limit on the multiverse.
We gotta get out of here.
We do.
I think that's cool that our lists are so different.
Yeah, they are different. Eternals till we die.
Yeah, but we're gonna get a totally different thing with Ms. Marvel and with Thor. So I expect that Thor movie to be pretty sensational.
I think that Thor movie is gonna, because it's not gonna have. It might not have to deal with the ridiculous sanctions that this movie had to deal with to not be released in countries. And I like it. It's just right in the name. I think this movie might just get universally loved. Like it's just something you get that feeling from like the best trailers invoke a feeling from you. I got that from the Top Gun trailer the first time I saw it. I got that from the Thor trailer the first time I saw it, and I got this from this Avatar trailer that we just watched. You just get this feeling.
Didn't get that feeling for this.
No, I didn't.
Going back to the
and I
trailer.
think what hurt it is where it debuted literally after possibly the most hyped movie that had ever been released in human history. Doesn't help that you show it right after that because people's minds are probably somewhere completely else.
Got the trailer during the Super Bowl.
Right.
Where the Patrick Stewart thing just melted people's minds. And I think that kind of set the bar as far as like...
Because we were guilty of it because we even said if they're willing to show that, what were they willing not to show?
Black Bolt.
Turns out about Reed Richards, it's Black Bolt.
Turns out Black Bolt was what they were hiding.
Yeah. Blackagar Boltagon. Comics are so stupid. This man's name is Blackagar Boltagon. His parents knew what he was doing when they named him.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally true. That I think it would have better served this trailer or this movie for the trailer if they didn't do the Illuminati stuff.
Yeah.
At all.
Should have just kept that out.
Kept it out, let it be a surprise for the movie, and then focus the trailer on Wanda and Doctor Strange. Because those were the two best aspects of the movie to me, were those two characters.
Right. Agreed. Agreed. So what have you been up to? You been watching anything? Reading anything? Playing anything?
Yeah, I've been playing heaps of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you're the gamer.
Bro, I've been on a Final Fantasy quest. Literally. I have been charting through them chronologically. Well, sort of chronologically. So like obviously like 7 is my launch point. Then I played 8, I played 9, I played 10, I played the sequel to 10, and then I went back. Got them on Steam, the pixel remasters of Final Fantasies 1 through 6. So I'm up through Final Fantasy 3 now. I'm playing. Just going through those games and seeing how this whole like genre started, because Final Fantasy is like the forefather of the JRPG. The first one came out in 1987, Final Fantasy 1, and a lot of those through lines are still there. Turn-based combat is still there. World exploration is still there. Final Fantasies 1 through 6 are more high fantasy, and then 7 and 8 kind of get more modern and futuristic. 9 goes back to that high fantasy. There's a lot of homages to the first 6 in 9. And then 10 is more modern. Everything is Star Wars, I found out, in Final Fantasy. It takes a lot of allusions from Star Wars. There's literally, in Final Fantasy 9, I believe, there's literally the fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate. Doesn't say hate leads to the dark side, but I think it's like hate leads to like annihilation or something like that.
That's fun.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Star. 10 is littered with Star Wars stuff. there's a big father versus son dynamic in 10, where the spoiler alert, the dad is the villain. So very
much like Wanda. The parent is the villain.
And then from there, my plan is after 6 is to go to 12 to 13, skipping 11 and 14 because those are multiplayer online games. So. And then to 15, and then hopefully by then 16 will be out, because 16 is apparently done, according to the developer. 16 is almost done. The trailer is done. So I'd expect a trailer for Final Fantasy 16 very soon, and I'd expect it to be one of those deals where, like, here's the trailer, and the game's out in, like, a month. I'm expecting it's going to be one of those things, which is cool.
Nice.
So that's what I've been doing.
I promise I'll play Final Fantasy 7. I promise.
You're going to have to, because when that remake trailer drops for part 2, you're never going to hear the end of it.
No, I won't. This is one of my favorite things, is to listen to Rob talk about Final Fantasy. Like, seriously, like, it's truly something that somebody's passionate about and, like, knows what they're talking about. It's truly incredible every time. So, nice. You know what I've been doing? Is this whole multiversal crap. I referenced in here, not the movie reference, I've reread most, and then been skimming through the rest of Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers, which leads into Secret Wars. Again, I will make the bold proclamation that this comic is one of the greatest just stories ever told. It's massive, it's world expanding and world destroying. It's one of those stories where I don't think about it as a comic after I'm reading it. I just think about it as like this just odyssey of storytelling, and this odyssey of these characters that are going on this essentially unwinnable journey. And it's just truly incredible. So essentially, it's such a smart way they started. You have 2 books running at the same time, and you don't really need to read both books at the same time. Once it starts crossing, you do need to read it eventually, but it essentially starts, I love the first line. It's just that basically it's like the collapse of the multiverse started with 2 men, Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. And essentially what it is it's presented to you as like, Tony's like, Steve, we need a bigger team. Like, we can't just have like 10, 12 we need an Avengers world. Like, we can't just have an Avengers team. Like, we need an Avengers universe. Like, we need characters like we can call upon at a moment's notice. And like, I'm talking a full roster that can deal with any threat. And that's essentially what it is. They need to deal with any threat. So all this is going on, but then you later find out that Tony essentially used this as a distraction for Steve of, hey, I really can't have you meddling in on this. So essentially, the other book that's running, New Avengers, this is where the interesting part leads. It's the Illuminati. So this is when anybody's going to tell you about this movie and the references, your nerd friend, which is, I guess, me in this situation. This is the Illuminati team that they're probably talking about, and the Illuminati story they're talking about. So essentially what happens, Black Panther's in Wakanda, and boom, and a whole nother world just appears in the sky. And one of my favorite comic characters shows up, Black Swan, and she tells him, like...
Natalie Portman.
No, wait. Well, she tells him, like, she turns around because she kind of descends from the other world, and it looks like she's about to destroy our Earth, but then she turns around and destroys the other Earth, and it just leads on this. It's such this large rabbit hole. Like I said, you don't need to read the 2 books. So the Avengers books that's running, it's awesome. Like what are we hitting there? We hit all the Captain Universe stuff. So essentially, Captain Universe finally finds a host on Earth. We get Ex Nihilo, who starts terraforming the Earth and terraforming Mars and turns it into his home. My favorite one in there is the Infinite Avengers one. This is also where Captain America finds out that he was ousted by Tony. So essentially, the comic starts. He just gives a right cross to Tony.
Good.
And then the Time Stone appears. So they start going. I think they go 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and 1,000,000 years in the future. And then essentially what they find out is like the last piece they get to is they just get to Immortus, Nathaniel Richards, and Kang just sitting in or was it Kang? It's Immortus, Nathaniel Richards, and it might have been Rama Tut, but it's essentially it's all Kang variants. They're all just sitting there, just like, hey, like you have a choice. Like this is something's happening, like something big is happening. You guys need to deal with this. So it's just really incredible. And then we tie it back in, and times runs out. I forgot about the whole Infinity Run where Thanos. So essentially, the Kree scroll, like the world, like the space stuff starts popping off, and the Avengers go out to they all need to go to space like immediately. And Thanos is like, Earth is mine. Earth is mine. But what you really find out is that Thanos has a son that's hiding again amongst the Inhumans that he really wants to go after because he just wants to kill him. He doesn't want that bloodline to keep going. Once you get into Time Runs Out, boy, you just get some incredible things. I mean, my personal favorite thing that ever come out of this is like Hyperion and Thor. So Hyperion's really Superman when he starts. Like he's such this Boy Scout. So like good, like truth, justice, like just this good, upstanding guy. And then like by the end, like he has a full grown beard. Like Thor, like really like it's like the Big Brother thing. Like Thor just kind of takes him under his wing on how to like kind of have fun and live. And like Hyperion and Thor are going up against the Beyonders. Like Beyonders are literally like beings that like make universes, and it's just the 2 of them because what they do is they seal the door on the other side, essentially. One of those, and they're just it's just the 2 of them. But I mean, to their credit, they're 2 gods essentially. So it's the greatest line. Like Thor says, like today I'm gonna meet you in Valhalla, brother, and he's like, no, I'm gonna race you there. And essentially, I think they said it's like a crack of thunder and a bolt of lightning ended the Thunder God in Hyperion. It's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Then it leads into Secret Wars, which essentially the beginning of Secret Wars is like one of like the saddest, like kind of like it's insane. Like literally like all the villains are like at a bar. Like it's like all the street level villains are at a bar, like crap. Like it's happening. Then the Punisher kicks in the door and it's just like, well, universe is ending. Might as well end you guys a little bit earlier. It's like Kingpin just starts opening fire on all of them. But then Reed essentially makes like an arc where he's like, you know what? We're going to try to save as many people as many, I guess, heroes because you might want them in the new universe. But then I think his whole family, like the arc breaks and like they get they fall out, and he's the only one that kind of survives. I think it's like him, Miles, and Spider-Man in there. The story's so big. Like, I'm not doing justice explaining it. It's like, it's so massive. Like, Doctor Doom gets, what's his name? Owen Reese, the Molecule Man, is like a big piece of like how he's containing this whole thing. Like, it's insane. It's just the definition of insanity. Like I said, it's like an Iliad and the Odyssey level story adventure that happens from start to finish. So it literally, like I said, starts with 2 guys, like Tony and Steve, and like the other side is like the Illuminati saying like we need to take control of these Earths collapsing, and then it literally ends with Reed and Doctor Doom, because what else would it end with?
Right. That's what we have to look forward to in the future of the MCU.
Yeah. I think that's like just how like Thanos and Iron Man were like the 2 like pillars. Like it's gonna be probably Reed and it's going to be John Krasinski and Cillian Murphy I'm holding out hope for. I think he would be the perfect Doctor Doom.
We just need to keep bullying Marvel, I guess.
Yeah, guys, I need your help. We're gonna Schneider cut this. Gonna get Cillian Murphy on that role. When he's done with Oppenheimer, he's gonna have a prime open schedule. We gotta cast him.
Yeah. Get him while he's hot.
Yeah, get him while he's hot. He's gonna be nuclear by that time.
Ah!
See what I did there?
I get it.
Yeah.
All right,
but
guys.
Not Barbie nuclear.
True.
Yeah.
Because Margot Robbie is a juggernaut
Yeah.
upon herself.
Ryan Gosling's playing Ken. That's such perfect casting.
Imagine Margot Robbie as the juggernaut. All right, we gotta go.
Yeah, we do have to go. Once it gets this late, we just start throwing out crazy things.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram.
Got the Project Infinite Pod.
Thank you. Next week, what are we doing next week? We don't know, right?
What even is next week's date?
The 17th.
17th.
Well, it'll be the 18th when the episode comes out. But yeah.
We'll find something for you guys.
Maybe we'll recap Top Gun.
Possibly, yeah. We might do a little, because we're definitely reviewing Top Gun. That's just non-negotiable.
Because Top Gun comes out the 25th, 7th,
27th.
27th. So we don't have to do Top Gun next week.
Yeah, we
can do Top Gun the week after next
because
week.
We're probably gonna do a Top Gun original recipe Top Gun recap and a Top Gun Maverick review.
Yeah.
Top Gun 2, Miles Teller's in this one.
So next week, don't know. We'll figure it out. But from me, from the Wong of the podcast,
that's such an honor.
I can't bestow a higher honor upon somebody.
It's the greatest honor. And if he had levels of me getting like the Andrew Garfield of this podcast, I've never felt so much praise in my life. I thought you were gonna give me like Baron Mordo or somebody or like Reed Richards.
Nah.
838 Reed Richards is just an insult.
Yeah, no. Can't do that. Smartest man in the universe. Get out of here.
Get out of here with that crap.
I've been saying this. I'll say it again. Reed Richards is mid when you take him out of the rest of the Fantastic Four. He's carried by that group.
That's just not true, but for the sake of argument, it's so much funnier, so I'm going to believe this. We're just not going to act like Reed Richards is just, like, not just making the craziest inventions and, like, saving the world, like, just with nobody knowing.
Can't do that when his head's exploded.
True, and his body's turned into string cheese.
Yep.
Hilarious.
Now what's he going to do? Nothing.
Nothing, because he's dead.
Yeah. Dead. Deceased.
Time of death. 8:38.
All right, guys. Next week, we'll figure it out. Until then, we will see you another time.
Peace.